Hello, we're live. Hello, Sonia, Sweet Goth, Janet. Susan is here. I'm going to be introducing her. Janet, Nina, Janet, everyone, please make sure you switch from top chat to live chat. Charlie, Hobo, and Sweet Goth says, hi, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Moderators, if you're coming on or if they just come on later, if there's any weird comments coming in, because there could be, people that are still loyal to Keith Raniere. Yes, this is about NXIVM. So feel free to just block, remove, whatever. Just be on top of that, and or let each other know in the comments. So hello, Avery, Joe, and Sina. All right. So that being said, thank you so much for being here. And this person is one of the NXIVM 9. If you've watched HBO's The Vow, you may have seen her in season 1, episode 7. This is from her website, My Mini NXIVM History. She left NXIVM in 2009. But it wasn't until almost 2 decades, in 2017, it burned to the ground. Earlier, the New York State Attorney General was working with us. They collected a lot of frickin' info, and poof, they were gone. She was sued by NXIVM, filing over 200 fake claims against her. She won their bogus lawsuit, representing herself against 7 of their lawyers. She has lots of battle scars from being in the NXIVM cult and the battle to take them down after leaving. Welcome to Susan Jones! All right, welcome, Susan. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's the first live stream I've ever done. I've done lots of podcasts, but this is the first live stream I've done. So thanks everybody for coming on. Yeah, this will be interesting. It's funny because nobody's wanted to talk about the MLM part of NXIVM. They just want to talk about the sex cult.
Right.
Which is important. I mean, that's what finally took them down.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But it was a multi-level marketing company, and it needs to be talked about because it helped The Vow, just watching HBO helped a lot of us know that we're not alone.
Yeah.
And not many people are talking about it was a multi-level marketing company because a lot of these behaviors, life-changing opportunity, 99% loss rate, you can your belief will shape reality. It's all the same throughout the multi-level marketing industry. Mm-hmm. So would you like to start just sharing how you got recruited in or how you heard about NXIVM, where you'd like to start about, did you know it was an MLM?
Well, not really, not at first. It's funny because, I had a master's degree in psychology, and I was a medical massage therapist. And so I had a kind of a blended practice. I worked on just people have been in car accidents and stuff like that. And then I worked individually with people in therapy. And then I had a mixed practice where I worked on, survivors of sexual assault and stuff like that, where I did massage therapy on them and did therapy with them and stuff. And then I was looking for an educational kind of program that people could come to and work on educational stuff, like how to build self-esteem, those kinds of things, because that was a big missing component that I felt like I had. And so I was visiting different programs that were out there. And I went to a program, and I mean, this is all in several of my podcasts, so I'll just do bullet points. I went to Detroit, Michigan, to this program called Life Skills. And I was thinking of bringing her to the Pacific Northwest. And while I was there, she said, I'm going to shut down my program. And, my friends and I went back there. We're all like, what do you mean you're going to shut down your program? And because she had an international training company. And she said, I'm going to Albany, New York to study with Keith Raniere with executive success programs. And she's inviting us whole weekend long, dripping on us. Oh, you should get on this conference call, blah, blah, blah. And it was $6,000. And I'm thinking, $6,000? That's a lot of money for a 16-day curriculum. And 16 days out of my practice was like a lot, because that was for me like a year's vacation worth of time off and stuff. And so finally, we all decided to go, and they had this program. It was sign up 3 and get your money back kind of thing. And I thought, well, if it's anything like they say it is, I could sign up 3 people, and get my money back.
Can I ask you, sign up 3, is that sign up 3 customers, or is that recruit 3 people to also do that they could also then recruit 3 people. Was there a distinction or?
No, it was more like sign up 3 people, take the 16-day program, and you could get your money back. So
Okay.
they had a 5-day program, and then they had a 16-day program. So if you went to the 16-day, you could sign up 3 people, get your $6,000 back. Or you could sign up if you took the 5-day, you could sign up 3 people and get your 5-day tuition back, kind of thing. But like at that time, I didn't think it was a multi-level marketing company, and by no means did I think it was a cult,
Okay.
kind of thing. But they were also looking for people at that time to open up satellite companies. Okay. And so, and I was interested in that. Now, step back, this is something I've really never talked about. I was in a network marketing company at that time called Manatech.
No way!
Yes
I've
way.
heard of Manatech.
Yes. And almost everybody at this training was in Manatech. In Albany, not in Albany, excuse me, step back. In Detroit, Michigan, almost everybody in that company was in Manatech, right? And the trainer that was training life skills, she had this huge international company, but she was really big in Manatech, right? And so she invites everybody like she can think of to this training in Albany, New York from Manatech, right? And so, but I wasn't really interested in Manatech. I was kind of burnt out on the whole network marketing thing. And I really wasn't doing Manatech at that time because I was tired of this walkway residual income sales pitch that you got. Because like you said, most people don't make blah, blah, blah. You spend more than you make and blah, blah, blah. So I was really focused more on my practice kind of thing. And so they were talking about this whole thing about you could set up, these satellite centers. That was really my goal kind of thing. So I went to the 16-day and I thought, well, if it is what they say it is, well, maybe I'll be interested in opening up a satellite center, in where I live. I'm south of Seattle kind of thing. And of course it was just like 5 modules a day, 2 hours a piece. Sometimes they went over 2 hours a piece, that kind of thing. Nancy Salzman, master trainer of master trainers of in neurolinguistics program, certified hypnotist of Ericksonian hypnosis, that kind of thing. And then all of Keith Raniere's inner circle people that he had from his consumer byline days, which was a huge network marketing company, got shut down by several attorney generals, that kind of thing. And so, but I didn't know any of this because I went in 2000 when Google didn't exist. I mean, the internet was fairly new. Metcrawler was like the only like thing out there because I Googled him. I mean, not Googled him, but I put in his name and you could barely pull up anything on him. And you walk in and it's not like the Swami kind of, chanting and burning of incense kind of thing. And you walk in, everybody's in business clothes. And it wasn't the MLM pitch that you got from other network marketing companies. It wasn't like, oh, run to the back of the room and buy our tapes, buy our books, and sign up for this thing. And so it wasn't the network marketing pitch. It was like educational classes all day kind of thing. So I didn't pick up on it, that kind of thing. And so the 3 of us that went back there decided to open up a satellite center, but you had to jump through certain training hoops and those kinds of things, but it was all free. You just exchanged coaching intensives for, as you moved up the ranks to become qualified to open up a training center.
So your labor was free? Like your labor was then exchanged for qualifying so it's like it's your labor, it's like it's considered free, but that's your time and you're not being paid for your time. Something else you said, what's similar now with the internet is that people will leave from one network marketing company or multi-level marketing company or social selling, social sharing, direct selling, whatever they want to call it. And they'll a big leader will go to another company and say, God put it on my heart. My team wasn't winning. I'm not really saying this to everybody, but you might want to follow, I'll send you a special Zoom link. I'm going to give a special presentation and it's illegal. You're not supposed to do that, but people do it all the time. And I think that's so fascinating that you were in Manatech and a lot of people were in Manatech and the person doing the presentation was also big in Manatech. That is really, really interesting.
Right. But so when I got back, I didn't burn my Manatech contacts because they were all like really busy in Manatech kind of thing. And they were all busy in their network marketing company, but I had a lot of friends that were looking for, human potential self growth kind of thing. So I got my 3 and it's free kind of thing. And, I felt like I was but I didn't send them to Albany. What I did was I set up trainings in my area and then had trainers um, from Albany come out and teach trainings until I was qualified to do my own little trainings out in my area kind of thing. And
How do you
it wasn't like I suspected anything back then.
Yeah, of course not. Well, because you're attracted to these classes. It's like, oh, you
Mhm.
were looking for this educational component and found it. And they weren't leading with the traditional business opportunity, like, oh, come and make this residual income. And then, like you said, go to the back of the room. It was sold, like the product was kind of sold. And then it was like, I want to open this center. How did you have to open the center? Or how did you qualify to open a center?
You had to get to they had ranks, like and this is how they sold it, it's like you had to wear these little sashes kind of thing. And they when they got to the sashes part, the class was called Rules and Rituals. And they had to talk about like, well, who else wears ranks, and so, we talked about like in the army or in the military and then police wear ranks. And then like I had been in martial arts, went through high school. And so like, I talked about like when you went from white belt to yellow belt and orange belt and stuff like that, which fit perfectly into what we were doing because, those were kind of the colors of the sashes kind of thing. And then like Keith was when you were in when you were involved in classes in NXIVM, you called Keith Vanguard, but you didn't call him Vanguard all the time. Although some people called him Vanguard all the time, to me, which was kind of creepy. But like if you were at volleyball, I didn't call him Vanguard, I called him Keith. But and the same thing with Nancy, Nancy's title at the school was prefect, and which I thought was kind of awkward. But outside, like if I was at Starbucks with Nancy, I didn't call, oh, prefect, I called her Nancy. And then, like when you went into the classroom at the school, you had to take off your shoes, and bow to the school and stuff like that. But later on, I learned that those are ways that they break people down to see who will do what, those kinds of things. And so the first one was white. When you're a student, it was white. Then when you enrolled 2 people, you became a coach,
And that enroll 2 people, does that mean like 2 people that are just like customers, or could they also then are they also encouraged to recruit? That was one thing I wanted to find out.
Well, they called them students. They didn't call them customers because we didn't have
Okay.
anything to sell but curriculum.
Okay,
So
so students, okay. All right.
yeah, so you enrolled them in any of the classes. It could
Oh,
be
okay. So they're kind of like they're not enrolling for the business opportunity yet. They're
no,
enrolling
no.
as a student. Okay, so you enroll
Yeah,
2
yeah,
people, you rank the first rank.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it could be just, took a 1-day, like we called it the taste test, you could come in and take a 1-day class. It was just 4 modules. So like was kind of like the part of the first day of the curriculum. And then, or they could come in and take a weekend class, or they could come in and take a 5-day or something like that. So not everybody that came in were, wanted to sell curriculum. I mean, that's the only thing we had to sell was curriculum, that kind of thing. It's not like they sold Vanguard shirts or any,
Right.
you know, any of
Can you
those kinds of things.
You should have sold volleyballs.
Yeah. Yeah, Vanguard sweatbands or anything like that, It's like there wasn't things to sell besides curriculum,
Right.
but as we went on, they developed more and more curriculum kind of stuff, it's like the ever-ending curriculum kind of thing. So, yeah, so it's and people weren't like, but with sales commissions, the thing is that they kept putting the goalpost farther and farther out in order to qualify as a salesperson. It used to be like if you sold a course, then you would get 20% of whatever that course was. But then they had this thing called an override. In order to um, in order to, like, say you sold something, you had to the first you sold, like, say a 16-day. You got 20% of that 16-day, which so $6,000 would be $1,200, right? The 20% of that. Out of that, you had to pay $380 to your field trainer. You know, and so field trainer was an overseer of the salespeople in their what you would call your organization. You know,
Right. They're at the top of the organization, the pyramid within the pyramid.
Right. So in your organization, it would be the top of your organization, of your downline.
Okay, that's the field trainer.
Right. And so out of all the salespeople in your organization, the field trainer is the top of that. And then if you developed other field trainers within your organization, then that top line field trainer, say the field trainer had 6 field trainers underneath them, then all those field trainers would have to pay a $380 override to that upline field trainer. You know, and then all the salespeople are paying overrides to that. And then when you reach the level of Proctor, which is the orange sash, Proctor's got 10% Proctor overrides. But before you got that Proctor override on your organization, you had to pay that override to the head proctor of that organization. So if you had 10 proctors in your organization, you still had to pay that proctor override. And so if you were the only proctor, you still had to pay that override. And so all the gravy went to the people that were in the top of the organization. And then, and all those top line people in the organization were people who followed Keith from his first company, Consumer Byline, which got shut down by 26 attorney generals in the United States that said, this is a true pyramid scheme and we're going to close you down. But I didn't know any of that until after I started, you know, because Google didn't exist. Then I joined, and then I, got sucked in to this thing. And then when I started going like, this seems like a red flag. This seems like a red flag. This seems like a red flag. And then I started doing research. And then there was a mass wave of 6 of us that left in 2009. And then in 2010, in the middle of my lawsuit, people started, the attorney general contacted 3 of us. And one of the questions was, what about this pyramid scheme? And because I happened to be part of the sales, it was called the Field Trainers Organization. I had the workbook on it. And I'm like, but I had to go to my judge because I had a temporary restraining order on me on the organizational, stuff, their materials. So I had to go to my judge. It's called in camera, and ask, I had to ask the AG for a subpoena, and then I had to go to my judge. It's called in camera. So NXIVM didn't know what was going on, and say, hey, I got this subpoena, and I need to send them information. And so then the judge had to give me permission, or say it was okay for me to send this stuff off to the attorney general, and then, or to the attorney general's office. And so based on information that we were, the 3 of us were sending to the AG, we thought we had them, and then all of a sudden they said, we have enough information, don't send us anymore. And so we thought we had them, and then nothing happened. And we're like, oh, what happened? And so, but we don't know if they, just thought it wasn't worth their time, or if, somebody was compromised within the, the structure of the government, or what, so, but nothing happened. And, till 2017, 7 years later.
And then it progressed. I do see some comments that will come back, but I do want to just address something that you had said about like the wearing of the sashes. And it's similar now, like a lot of multi-level marketing goes on now virtually. And then so the behavior where it's like, okay, you're not in a physical place, like going in and taking off your shoes and breaking you down, but it's the same thing. It's going on, but it's just in a virtual space. So the company that I was with, like I was in a multi-level marketing company. And then I was also in this multi-level marketing coaching group, which is the real big problem one that is, I see so many similarities between NXIVM and hearing about the vow, and then like what I see in rank makers, in my opinion. But with Mon8, this is the shampoo MLM. When you rank up, you get different pins. And there's like, you're just like super proud to get this pin, and you'll just wear it around town. And you'll also like buy their clothing. It'll say like Mon8, like on the pants, like you'll be branded. And it's so weird because like hearing you describe like this, the sashes where it's like, you know, you can make it like, oh, this is martial arts. Like we brand ourselves. We're like wearing this, like these the chuggy hats, like, we think it's amazing. Like we have no clue what it looks like on the outside. So I just kind of, I've heard other, like when people are talking about that, about NXIVM, and like, didn't it cross your mind about the sashes? Like in the multi-level marketing industry, that symbol is normal. Those symbols are normal. It doesn't take long to make it okay in your head.
Right,
you can link it with anything. And like with Mon8, it was like these pins. In the coaching group, rank makers, we would buy merch. They do sell merch. It's like 14-day challenge, default setting gratitude with like this big crown on the hip. That was the other thing. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you is, you had mentioned too, and I saw Michelle Carpenter had said about Chris, the interview that you did with Chris Shelton.
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned in order to get a center, you had to enroll 100 ethos students.
Well, no, we could have a center before then, but in order for the center to make money, to get money back from Albany, we had to have 100 ethos students enrolled in the center, which when we first started, when you do I was the first center outside of Albany. And so in order to get 100, and then Edgar Boone from Mexico, he was the Edgar Boone was like the Tony Robbins of Mexico. He already had like the self-help kind of thing going on. And he actually had been to the woman in Detroit, Michigan. He had already been to her program. And then he took components of her program and other programs, and he started this this self-help group in Mexico. And so he was kind of like the Tony Robbins of Mexico. And so when she went to executive success program, she called Edgar Boone and said, oh, wow, you know, I found this phenomenal program and you have to come. And so shortly after I went in, Edgar Boone from Mexico came up, and he opened up Mexico, you know. And so Edgar Boone started in Monterrey, Mexico. We opened a center, and then Mexico City, and then oh gosh, I forget the other name of the city right off the top of my head. So he had 3 centers going, and Edgar Boone and I were kind of in competition of whose center would qualify first, you know, and mine actually qualified just shortly before his did, you know. But it was years. It took years to get to the 100. You know, we'd get up to like 89, and then certain students would drop out, you know, because it was like an annual membership. And then we would get back up to like 93, and then it would drop off, you know, that kind of thing. But you couldn't make a dime in your percentage from Albany until you got to that 100 students. And so everything in the center I paid for out of my own pocket, like the utility bills, the rent, the chairs, the flip charts, the TVs, the DVD players, all of that kind of stuff. The display sashes, you know, those kinds of things. And until we got to that 100 students. So I was paying out of my other commissions that I got, you know, my proctor commissions, my sales commissions, that kind of stuff. And so sometimes when bills would come in, I'd be like, okay, I have to steal from this commission to pay that bill, and this commission to pay that bill, and stuff like that. And, you know, the whole startup cost was all on credit cards that I had, because I had really good credit, you know, kind of thing. And so, and then, you know, they would say, oh, you know, you need to come back and take level 2A again, because, you know, your breach with Nancy is blah, blah, blah. They wouldn't tell me what my breach was, you know, but the breaches were always unhealable. You know, you couldn't heal a breach with anybody, or like your breach with Vanguard, you know, you need to come back and take level 2B again. Like I took level 2A 4 times, $10,000 4 times, you know, that kind of thing. And it was just kind of
Holy
like,
shit.
you know, and then if I didn't take the level 2s, it would be kind of like, you know, it's like, well, we just can't let you be a field trainer. I mean, not, we can't let you be a head trainer, you know, because you're not dealing with your breach. So they would take a source of income away from me, kind of thing. You know, we can't let you come to this, you know, this, you know, like I was working to become a exploration of meaning practitioner, which is another form of income. Well, we just can't let you do those trainings anymore because you're not, you know, so they would blackmail you into taking these trainings, which were $10,000 a pop, those trainings. And it'd be like, oh my God, you know? So, you know, and then I would take out a new credit card to pay off another credit card because you had 6 months to not have to pay that credit card. And it was just like this Russian roulette with credit cards and stuff. So when I left, I was $260,000 in debt, you know, with business loans and bank credit cards and shit and stuff. And it was just like, that's why I ended up having to file for bankruptcy. And then they came into my bankruptcy. Nexim came into my bankruptcy and filed an adversary case against me. So
it's almost like it's designed to fail, right? It's almost like that. There is a question here. I don't know if you can say passing
yeah.
from Helen. Susan, how much internal focus and pressure was put on people to recruit? And can you give an example of tactics used to recruit?
Well, yeah, I think in the early days before the Brofmans came in, and if you guys don't know who the Brofmans are, Claire and Sarah Brofman were the two youngest daughter of Edgar Brofman Sr. And the Brofmans are, I mean, I didn't know who the Brofmans are when I went in, and they're part of the Seagram fortune, the liquor, Seagram fortune. And they came in and they both had millions of dollars in trust funds when they came in. And so before they came in, Nexium was suing quite a few people. And so, and I was a field trainer, one of the people that were in charge of groups of salespeople. And so we would have field trainer meetings once a month. So I had to fly back to Albany to go to these field trainer meetings.
And that's your own expense as well.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And then, you know, find a place to stay, blah, 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 you know, rent the car, la, 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 that kind of thing. Eventually I went into a partnership with somebody and we bought a house and I bought a beat up Jeep, you know, for back there and stuff. But at these field trainer meetings, Nancy Salzman would come in and she would just rake us over the coal about, you know, recruiting and blah, blah, blah. And they would, you know, people would say, well, why isn't so-and-so at this level too? And I'd be like, because they don't have any money. And they were like, well, can't they take out a second mortgage on their house? You know, and I'd be like, I am not going to do that. You know, I am not going to ask people to take out another credit because I knew what I had done for myself, you know, in regards to like going so far in debt. And so I was really protective of the people out on the West Coast that I was not going to do that to people and stuff. But there was so much pressure on recruiting and stuff like that. But I was not going to pass that pressure on to other people in regards to that and stuff. And, you know, I went to a lot of networking meetings, you know, that kind of stuff. And but I was really protective in like when people would say, you know, hey, I want to go to Albany and finish my last 11 days, you know, like they took the 5-day out and at my center and they'd be like, oh, I want to go visit Albany. And I would just, you know, and I would pull them in the back room, you know, and say, this is why you shouldn't go to Albany. I said, you know, because we had this whole thing about you shouldn't keep secrets. And I'd say, you know, you can tell them that I told you this and I'll get the shit beat out of me, but this is why you shouldn't go back to Albany, you know, because there was the whole mind fuckery that took place when people would go to Albany, you know, oh, you should move back here. And, we'll do this for you if you move back here. Like there was a friends of mine, he was a chiropractor and she was a nurse practitioner. And I'd say, they're going to tell you that they're going to open up a health center and they're going to want you to be the chiropractor and you to be the, you know, the nurse practitioner. And it's never going to happen. You know, they're not going to build the building. They're not going to have a health center. And it's just a big fucking lie. They're not going to do that, but they're going to tell you that to get you to move back there. And so don't buy into it. And I looked at my friend Shelly and I said, you fit right into Keith's profile. right into his sexual profile, and their eyes would just get bigger and bigger the more I would talk. And I said, go to Albany if you want to experience we call it the mothership. I'd say, go there if you want to experience the mothership, but just know they're going to fuck with you the whole time you're there, and
it's so interesting because it's similar. Like I see similarities like with like multi-level marketing too, where it's like, we want to do it right. We realize that there's fucked up shit, and we'll tell people like, oh no, don't listen to this upline. Don't listen to the president. I know he's nuts or whatever. He's just like totally wild. I'm going to do it right. That's what it like warning my people. I was created Facebook groups and tried to do the training in a nicer way, thinking that I was helping, but I'm just like part of the system,
Right.
There's another question here. This is from Hunter. I'm still unsure what the actual MLM is. Is it similar to Scientology? Like, what is a personality MLM? It was like, so this was about selling basically personal development courses.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but it's like, when there were a lot of people that sold curriculum that couldn't get paid, in regards to that. And then like for me, it's like I worked my ass off and never got ahead. Matter of fact, I was deep in debt, and I did, like my 100% of the money went back to Albany. Like when I filled out a contract for somebody to take a curriculum, 100% of the money went back to Albany, and my center only made 10% of that money. But yet my center did 100% of the work that made that money for Albany, right?
So not only like you had a brick and mortar store, because this is one of the things they say with network multi-level marketing. You don't need to have a brick and mortar store. This is how they rationalize auto ship payments. You don't have to pay for rent or overhead. So that's why you should spend another $200 on shampoo or buy the flash sale or whatever to get your PV to then get paid on your downlines commissions. But you had a brick and mortar store. And you were saying like to get 100 ethos students, how many years did it take for you to get 100 ethos?
I think it took about 5 years total.
Oh my God. And all of it. So you went up to 93, still you're not making anything until it gets to 100. And then all that money is going to Albany. And then they send you 10%.
Right. And then for a while, I kept track of all of my commissions on an Excel spreadsheet. And I had a friend of mine help me do that. And she's really good with books and stuff. And for a while, I kept saying, I'm not getting all my commissions, and this took about 4 months. And finally I said, I am not getting all my commissions. I want a forensic accounting of and finally this woman that she did the commissions check, she finally came back to me. I was back in Albany and I was working on my computer at the center, and she came back and she tapped me on the shoulder, and I turned around. She said, you're right. You're not getting all your commissions. She said, we're not paying you for the Canadians that came to my center. And I said, what? She said, yeah, we're not paying you for the Canadians. And I said, how much do you owe me? And she said, $30,000.
What?
And I went, what the fuck? Why are you not paying me for the Canadians? She said, we just didn't factor it in. And I'm like, well, are you going to pay me? She said, yeah, we're going to cut you a check before you leave. And so when that $30,000 check came into me, I deposited and just paid part of my credit card debt off. But had I not been proactive about keeping track,
and nobody does, rarely do anybody keeps track. Like that's one of the things that we talk about, like with raising like anti-MLM advocacy, is like do a profit and loss statement, track your income and your expenses. Very few people do, because we're all deep in thinking, oh, I just have to believe, I just have to work on my mindset. I have a broke mindset. I need to manifest. I need to take additional coaching. There's a limiting belief that I have. I'm self-sabotaging myself. Now I learned what I have to do. I have to do a Facebook live video and emotionally manipulate people by talking about trauma, and then use a cool call to action to create conversations to then hopefully recruit them. That's how it ties in with like present day MLM.
Yeah, it was just like shocking to me. And then I went to the next field trainer meeting and I said, you guys should keep track of your commissions, because I just found out that in some of them were in Keith's Center Circle, and on the executive board. Matter of fact, every person that was on the executive board at the time was a woman, and they were all sleeping with Keith, And the other ones in the field trainer meeting that in the field trainer group that weren't sleeping with Keith were men from Mexico, and they were all rich, and like they didn't give a shit, you know.
Right. That was something else that I'd heard that you mentioned on Chris Shelton's interview. And can you like talk about that too, where your center, you're not making all this money, but in Albany, because Nancy Salzman has the center, the field trainers are making money because they don't have the expenses that you are having.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. If you're if you're a salesperson, right, or proctor or whatever, and you're at a center that somebody else is supporting, you don't have the financial output. And so when I was at the original meeting where they were talking about this is a center, this could be a center, and this is blah blah blah, and they were talking about the percentages and how much you could make and all this kind of stuff, they said it's all negotiable. So when I realized that I was not making money and I wasn't able to, like I was robbing Peter to pay Paul, I went to Nancy and I said, your percentages don't work, you know? And she said, well, what are you talking about? And I said, well, you know, like you can't pay the bills that it costs to run a center on 10%, and nor can I pay back my startup costs. And I said, you know, you get 70% from everybody, you know, off the top, 70%. And so
70%. They get 70%. So they're at the top. They're getting the overrides. They're getting and 70%.
Right. I said, well, the overrides go to the people within the pyramid, right? Kind of thing.
Okay.
I said, but I said, you get 70%. So, you know, you're able to pay all these legal bills that you're suing people with and all this kind of stuff. And I said, so you got the gravy train. And I said, and then you pay off all these, you know, 30% of she gets 100%, and then she pays out 30%, you know, and all these commissions. And then the overrides people are paying out of their commissions to the uppity ups kind of thing. And I said, so you're able to make your bills. I said, but centers can't survive on 10%. I said, so you said we could renegotiate this. So I want to renegotiate. And she said, what are you talking about? And I said, it's not possible. It doesn't work. And she goes, well, that's because it's your breach and you should work on your issues. And I said,
your breach? You had a broke mindset too.
Yeah. I said, so now you want me to take another $10,000 training that I can't afford and buy, they're called explorations of meaning. It's like a one-on-one dialogue that you do with somebody in NXIVM. They were like $120 a pop. And so now you want me to buy more EMs that I can't afford because your fucking plan doesn't work.
So you question the compensation plan. You're questioning like getting paid. She said it was negotiable. You go to negotiate. They're like, the answer is you need to give us more money. You need an EM. You need whatever. You need to
not just an EM. I need several EMs.
Several EMs.
And I need to take right. And I need to take several level 2s to work on my breach, because if I just could clear that up, that limitation up, I could make more money. And I'm like,
right.
It's like, why are you throwing this back in my face when I have plenty of data that the 10% doesn't work? You know, I've worked my ass off for years trying to make this thing work, and it's not working. You know, it's like.
And then meanwhile, you have these like rich people that they don't care because it's like a hobby. Like it's like they don't need to keep a look at the books because it's not going to impact them as much. They don't give a fuck. They don't have to. So then like it's like blurring the lines of reality where like you're the person that is actually looking at this business model that's not working, and you have the data and you're being told, it's like gaslit. You're being told, oh, you need to work on your mindset. There's something you got to breach. Then you have these other people that are affiliated with the center in Albany that don't have that financial output, like paying the rent, buying the flip chart, all that stuff. They're like, well, what are you talking about? I'm making a lot of money, because they don't see that they're in like two totally different situations.
Right.
So it's like you're on your own. Like it's your fault.
Right. And then by then the Sarah and Clara Brofman were in. And I said, well, I don't have Brofmans to give me millions of dollars, you know. And she's, oh boy, that lit her ass up, you know. It's like, how dare you, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, I don't have a pair of Brofmans to like give me millions of dollars to like pay their legal fees and, wasting the commodities market like you guys are doing and sue people and shit like you guys are doing. It's just like, why you said it was renegotiable. Now you're backing out of that deal and that you're like making it about me. I said, so what you're saying is the average Joe can't open up a center, that somebody has to come from a wealthy Mexican family, you know?
This is a comment from Nina. What's so interesting is so far it's all Nancy, no Keith.
Well, I didn't spend a lot of time with Keith because I didn't fit into his profile. He like, Keith was busy having sex with women is what he was doing. And so my contact in NXIVM with the higher ups was Nancy. Thank God, it's like Keith, I found Keith to be really creepy. It's like, oh my God, the guy was a creep. It's like my creep radar. This is what happened is I went in the last part of December, right after Christmas started the 16 day. And so it ended, the 5-day ended on Christmas Eve. So then Keith came in and did a what they call a forum, and he's talking and answering people's question. And I thought, oh my God, this guy is the most boring person in the world, and like, but people are like, oh, Keith, and, drinking the fucking Kool-Aid. And I'm just like, oh my God, and then they had a New Year's Eve party for the center, and we were all invited to go to it. The students were all invited to go to it, and everybody he's sitting at a table and people are surrounding him, like he is like Bon Jovi or somebody,
Yeah.
And I hate that kind of stuff. And so
I did that with fucking rank makers. I was that fucking person drinking the Kool-Aid. I saw like Ray Higdon at this fucking event. I'm like, oh, can I get my picture with you? I thought he was the fucking shit. It's so embarrassing. I wish I had a story like yours, but I drank the fuck. I was that fucking person.
Right. So I'm kind of standing on the edge of the room, being the wallflower. And so Nancy comes up to me and she goes, "Why aren't you hanging out by Keith?" And I'm like, "Nah, that's not my thing, not, and I don't want to say, well, because he's a fucking creep, So I'm like, nah, not my thing. And she goes, "But it's Keith." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's not my thing." And she goes, "It's Keith." And I'm like, not my thing, And besides that, it's got plenty of people, like I don't even know how he breathes the air around him, because it's like everybody's like, "It's Keith, it's Keith, And I'm like, not my thing. And so then she leaves, and then pretty soon Lauren Salzman, her daughter, comes up and she's like springy and like, "Oh, why aren't you over by Keith?" And I'm like, not my thing. And she's like, "It's Keith." All starry-eyed and stuff. And I'm like, it's not my thing, and she's like, "But it's Keith." And I'm like, not my thing. And the whole time I'm like, every time anybody says it's Keith, I'm like getting sick to my stomach and I just want like a barf bag. I'm like, is there a barf bag around? Like, really? And then it's like after the forum was over, before we went to the party, people are coming out of the room going, "Wasn't that fantastic? It was so amazing." And I'm like, it's Keith. And I'm just like going, oh my God, you think I would have just left after that, but I paid my $6,000 and I wanted the rest of it.
So it's like sunk cost fallacy factoring in. You paid $6,000, like.
But I like the training. I just didn't like Keith, It's just like, exactly. It's like, I don't like him.
This is a question from DC. Do members who were in longer train new members how to interact with Keith by fawning over him without letting them really think through that he wasn't that great?
Oh, I never, it's funny because I would get my ass kicked every time I would do a training, like I went to Ireland to do a 5-day training for Sarah Brofman. you know, we've got to take the private jet over and all this kind of stuff. You know? And it's funny because not as many people showed up as she thought they were, and she wanted to leave, which meant I would not only have to train the training, but I would have had to run a breakout group at the same time. And I said, no, 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 this is your training. You have to stay and run the breakout group, one of the breakout groups. And so and then I worked with her people afterwards to, you know, help the coaches and coach training and stuff. And then we flew home and stuff. And she's like, "Oh, you're my new favorite trainer. You know, I want you to come to Ireland and do all my trainings and stuff like that." And then a couple of days after we got back, apparently she sat down with Nancy and said, "Oh, Susan's my new favorite trainer, blah, blah, blah." And then a couple of days later, I get a call from Sarah and she goes, "Why did you not edify Keith and Nancy more?"
Not edify.
And I said,
Edify.
"Well, I did at the beginning of the training. You know, I talked about how Keith and Nancy, oh, excuse me, Vanguard and Prefect developed the training together and stuff." And I said, "But I don't do it all the way through the training because it makes it sound like a cult, you know, and I never do that." "Well, I just got my ass kicked around the block about doing that." "Well, you should blah, 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 blah. And that's your breach." You know, I'm like, oh my God. I said, "It makes it sound like a fucking cult, you know,
Yeah.
when like every other word out of your mouth is Vanguard and Prefect." And I said, "I don't do that." Well, I never got to head train anymore for intensive.
Because you refuse to edify them, which is
Right.
still it's the wrong like, we still say that in multi-level marketing, that edification. You're supposed to if you're gonna introduce your upline, maybe you have a three-way call or you're at an event, you need to pump so much sunshine up their asses, like and we're taught that even if they're a terrible speaker, they're boring. It doesn't matter because it's all about the language that we use in rank makers. There's another word. It's called he's redefined the word posture
Mhm.
to the belief in what you have, regardless of external acceptance or approval. So you
Yeah.
have to be more postured, and also you have to be more postured than this other person. So it's all about this power imbalance. There's another question here from Stevie. Do you still like the training, Susan, or are there components of it that you still use in your life?
Gosh, you know, there are aspects of the training that I still really like, and you know, of course, you know, there are aspects of it that I still use. It's not that Keith and Nancy created anything new. They
Right.
picked things from other trainings and stuff like that. I like the aspects of how it was created. You know, a lot of it's inductive. You know, like they would teach a component of it, and then you would break out in small breakout groups, and you would discuss the concepts of the training, and
Can
then
you
people.
say what does inductive mean? Like, what I don't understand what that is.
Well, inductive learning is where you know, they would ask a group of questions, and then you would break into small breakout groups, and then you would come back and so you would ask a question like, "What is honesty?" And then the people in the group that were at the training, students, would be able to go and explore the concept of honesty. And so we'd all get to study honest, you know, think what we think honesty is. And then when you go back to the big group, we'd pop in a DVD of Nancy, and Nancy would give NXIVM's concept of what honesty is. But what I didn't recognize at the time is that if Nancy was doing the training, she was implanting what NXIVM's concept of honesty is in your brain. Or if you're watching the DVD, which is even more, um, whenever you watch TV, you go into beta waves that are more hypnotic. You know, that's why when you're watching TV and they do a lot of food commercials, you go, "Oh my God, I'm hungry. I'm going to get up and get a snack," kind of thing. So TV is actually even more hypnotic. That
So
kind of.
that's I've never heard that before, and that's what makes this even more alarming with like MLMs being all over social media now, because you're
Mhm,
online all the time and we're watching daily live videos like
mhm.
training. So that I'd never heard that. Thank you for that. I'm sorry I
Yeah.
interrupted. I was
No, that's okay. And so what they were doing is implanting their concepts of what they were in. So later on, when you would get feedback, those implants are already in your brain. You know, so it takes somebody who's actually pretty strong willed to go like,
yeah.
"Well, why do you teach this and do that?" Which, you know, I grew up with I grew up with, my dad was 20 years in the military service, and my mom, my mom, she was like a drill sergeant, and so my mom and I were like constantly, and I would like always fight her on certain things. And so, my favorite trauma response is fight, which is a double-edged sword, because sometimes I really can get me in trouble, and people be like, "Oh, you're so mean," kind of thing. And and sometimes when I'm triggered, I fight when I should actually be kind, kind of thing. And then I'll have to go back and say, I'm really sorry I was triggered, and I'm sorry I was an asshole, kind of thing. Where other people, they'll freeze or they'll fawn and stuff like that. And you know, I'm not saying one trauma response is better than the other, but and then I was in the military for 10 years. And when I first went in, I was an aircraft mechanic when women were just going into men dominated fields. And my first duty station, I was the only woman in a shop of 80 men. So it was good that I was more strong-willed, because they would be like, "Oh, well, you're going to just be batting your eyes and get men to do shit for you." And I'm like, I don't think so, kind of thing, So I had to actually prove myself over, months of being able to do my job, kind of thing, to where I could earn their respect, kind of thing, where, it was unnecessary for me to have to do that, but that's the way it was back then. Kind of thing. And so, yeah, so it's just, so I think some aspects of the training were good, but you could get those aspects anywhere. But then it's kind of like a double-edged sword, where I use this metaphor a lot. It's like that knife in a hand of a surgeon is a good thing, but the knife in a hand of a psychopath is dangerous. And so when you took the training from NXIVM, they use that as they use that in a dangerous way. And so they use that against people in a dangerous way, where I still have people. I mean, I was on a Zoom call with some friends that they live all over now, and they say that they're really glad that they experienced what they experienced at my center. We had a good community and stuff like that. And so, because I didn't take advantage of people.
Right.
We had fun, and we did fun things together and stuff like that.
Yeah. This is kind of an odd question.
Well,
but
that's okay. I like odd questions.
All right. This is the Clown Town. This is Val and Gus. Say, when you say I would get my ass kicked and they would beat me up, is this verbal, emotional? It's okay if you don't want to answer. There's so many different generations that watch this channel, and like different just learning styles and that. So I think it's good to like elaborate something that might be obvious to some people, might not be obvious. So.
Yeah, no, it was a lot. It was both, I took a lot of verbal beatings, and then emotionally there was a lot of tearing down. They find, I think all cultic kind of organizations, they find your weak spots. They're trained to do that. Narcissists are really trained to find, what your weak spots are. And I think people that are the head of network marketing companies or coaching companies, that kind of thing, they try to find what your weak spots are, and then they attack those weak spots, and then when you say, "Hey, I'm out of here," then they use those kind of things to attack you even further. And so, when I went through therapy, gosh, it was a long haul out of that abuse that I took in regards to that. So I mean, I had to go into therapy right away, because I knew I was going to get sued, and I had to get myself together to go through that lawsuit enough to where I could stand in front of a courtroom and not fall apart.
That's something when I was watching The Vow, and like season 1, episode 7, if you want to see Susan in it, it was like when you said that you were like, you knew you had to get strong. So and maybe you said this in Chris Shelton's podcast too, or maybe I don't know for sure, but it was like you knew that you had to get strong, so you delayed going to court or filing bankruptcy as long as possible.
Yeah,
and I identified with that. I wish I had have had the wherewithal to get into therapy right away, but I did it backwards. I started speaking out right away. I felt this urgency. I felt like I had to let everybody know. And then it was about 4 months after it hit me. I'm like, I need help. So I thought, but I was like, I need to get strong. That was the thing. If I want to continue, I need to get strong. So that was really powerful when I saw that, when you said that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a journey, and I think people, if you don't know about trauma responses, I'll put it up on my website. I shared it on social media. I mean, if you follow me on social media, I put the wheel of trauma responses on my on Instagram and on Twitter and stuff. And you know, a lot of times when we're triggered, we go to our favorite trauma response in regards to that. And so that's what I meant, that, fight is my favorite trauma response. And I think it's just the conditioning, in the family that we grew up. We start our trauma responses there. But you know, I had to dig myself out of a big hole because, and the reason I stayed so long, I think, is because the collateral they had over me was my financial debt, because, I felt a big responsibility to pay back my debt, kind of thing. And otherwise I think I would have left a lot earlier, but, and then I justified being in this horrible situation by trying to protect my people. That I don't mean my people from a ego perspective, but the people that came to my center, in regards to the fact that people said they were getting good results, and I tried to protect them from what was going on in Albany, that kind of thing. And then we just had an amazing community. We did a lot of great things together. I mean, we would go in the wintertime, we would do snowshoeing and cross country skiing events and stuff like that. And we had a great goals lab. Like, one guy had a basement to his house where he had a separate entrance. You just came into the mud room and you could go downstairs. And so he used the goals lab to redo his basement into a 1-bedroom rental place and stuff like that. So he would come to Goals Lab, and it helped to motivate him to, like, what's your next step, blah, 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 those kinds of things. And then we put on a whole production of, like, what is your oh gosh, I'm trying to draw the word up. Like, what is your like your artist kind of skills? Like, some people sang, some people played musical instruments, like some people acted. We had an improv group and stuff like that, and we put on a whole production. We rented a theater, we invited our families and stuff like that, and we put on a whole show where people did, musical instruments and stuff like that. And like, we'd like twice a month put on potlucks and, do goofy things together and stuff like that. And so, and like, there wasn't a requirement that people had to come and stuff like that. So, it was just a great, I mean, and people came and went, not everybody stayed as ethos. Ethos was kind of like a gym membership. You signed up for 3 months, 6 months, or a year, and then you got one-on-one coaching every week, and then you could come to classes as you wanted. It was like a gym membership.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
When you were talking about the goals lab, and then the guy that did his like that
basement
or whatever, did you, this is a similarity that I don't know if this particular example is a good example of it, but we have to attribute all success, all transformation to, like, to rank makers, to Monet, like, to our company. Did it ever get like that?
No.
No, it wasn't. Okay, it was more like you had that autonomy. It was like, this is my success. It's not because of.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, all the success was his because he did all the work. I don't know how it was in Albany if people said, "Oh, thank you, Vanguard, for my success."
Yeah.
That kind of shit.
That's what it's like in the MLM industry. It's like all the success is due to your upline. Even like we would take a course like about manifesting. You need to, like, manifest abundance. You have a scarcity mindset. So you have to reprogram your subconscious and listen to this guy on this fucking video before you go to bed. It's like you're imagining money. And then you say you go in, you're like cleaning out your closet and you find $20 in your old jacket. You're like, it works. It's like, thank goodness. And we will post on social media, hashtag the group, hashtag the coach, as if this is proof.
Yeah, I don't know how it was after I left. I left in 2009 and things got really crazy in NXIVM, and they were doing like uh, readiness drills. I don't know what the hell they were doing readiness drills for, but they would have to check in, like somebody who started a phone tree with texting and like you had a certain amount of time that check in, or you would have to do some kind of punishment kind of thing like cold showers or, and they went on these crazy diets and people were like really overly thin and shit like that. And then, they had, this bizarre women's group and a bizarre men's group, and then DOS happened and stuff like that. So I don't know how it was after I left, but when I left, it was, I found out about the money laundering from Mexico and the cash coming across the border and stuff. And that's what was my final straw, when I found out about crimes. And it was just like, I am not going to be in a criminal organization. I mean, the emotional abuse that was taking place. And then I also found out, I suspected Keith was sleeping with women. And I talked about that in the Chris Shelton. I've talked about it in every podcast I've been on, but I said, and I asked Nancy, is Keith sleeping with so-and-so? And she'd be like, well, we don't talk about that, and I'd be like, well, but it's obvious. I mean, it's obvious to me, that he's, amorous with so-and-so at the center. Then, I can't be the only one who's picking up on it, because I'm not psychic, So like, why is he, he shouldn't bring it to the center, that stuff should be left privately. But she never denied it. When I said, well, is Keith sleeping with so-and-so? She wouldn't say, well, no, he's not. He's not sleeping with anybody. So it's like, we don't talk about it is very different than no, he isn't kind of thing. And so, and I said, well, he shouldn't be sleeping with students, period, because it's not ethical. In any other educational program, that would be a HIPAA violation, or not a HIPAA violation. It would be an HR violation. And then when I found out he was borrowing large sums of money, like $68 million from the Brofmans that he lost in the commodities market, she told me that and I blew a fuse. Like, why are you guys borrowing money that you can never repay? That kind of stuff. And then she just scaffed it off like, it was their father's fault because he knew that he was in the commodities market. So he set it up so Keith would lose the money. And I'm like, how could he know Keith was in the commodities market? And then like, how could he, bet against him, that kind of thing. But the issue was really, why are you borrowing that kind of money? That kind of thing.
Yeah. $68 million.
Yeah. But they could never repay. They never made that kind of money in tuition, kind of thing. Right. But then when I found out they were breaking the law, it was like, I was either going to be culpable and continue to stay, or I was going to leave, and then when she realized what she told me, she's like, well, what are you going to do with this information? Which scared me. It's like, kind of like, it's like, well, I can't do anything. What my thing was I told her I can't do anything because it'd be my word against your word. And I had no proof kind of thing, but I just want to get the hell out of her house and go back to Seattle, because it's like, am I going to end up in a cornfield somewhere?
Yeah.
Now that you've told me this.
Yeah.
And then I knew I had to shut down my center. It didn't matter what ramifications were going to happen to me. It was like, I could not stay in an organization where I knew criminal activity was going to happen. And so that's what I did.
That's holy shit. Okay. Jessica asks, Susan, thank you so much for sharing this and speaking out. So important. Did you see there was a downfall near before it happened?
Downfall near.
This would be before NXIVM like finally like crumbled, like burned to the ground, so to speak. Did you?
Yeah. Well, I eventually knew Keith, because people, when they would leave after I left, and they left before the ship burnt down, a lot of times people, when they left, they would call me and say, you know, gosh, I wish I would have listened to you, kind of thing. And which I don't think that's funny, but it was like a lot of people called me saying that, you know, and the bottom line is nobody can listen to you whenever you leave an organization, you know, like an MLM organization, or they can't listen to you until they're ready to
I
take in
know.
the information, you know, as much as we
How do
try.
you like fight that? Because it's just like I'm in denial about that.
Mhm. Yeah, I
So how
know.
do you, yeah,
Yeah, it's like, if you haven't read Yanya Lalich's book, Take Back Your Life,
I have.
um, yeah, she talks about we have this shelf behind us, you know, that we put our red flags on, you know, and then when we have enough red flags on that shelf, it'll crumble. Well, mine must have been built out of like a redwood forest log. 'Cause it took a lot of red flags to crumble. But, you know, the thing is that, you know, we wake up when we wake up, you know? And so, like, when I left, you know, a lot of people knew that I was leaving because of criminal activity and because I found Keith was he was manipulating women, that there was a whole setup amongst his inner circle of women. They thought they were having a monogamous relationship with Keith, not that he had a harem of women. And then when they would find out that he wasn't monogamous and he had a whole harem of women, what would happen is these other women would swoon in, like Nancy Salzman, Lauren Salzman, Karen Unterreiner, a whole bunch of women who would swoon in and then manipulate them, saying, well, why do you need him to be monogamous? Like, you know, how's that any different than him playing tennis with other women? And I'm like, what?
The
Like,
exact same thing.
no, like, how is tennis the same as having sex with somebody? But, you know, they would just, like, continue to, like, you know, ping on their brain, you know, like, you know, why do you need him to be monogamous? You know, like, it's when he's with you, you know, and, and then they get into this whole woo-woo thing about, like, having sex with him is like, you know, this spiritual experience and, you know, and like all kinds of shit. But there was this whole setup about, you know, Keith is lonely and he's the vanguard and he can't have friends, really like close friends, and he needs a friend. Can you be a friend to him? And people buy into that. And I was told this by two of the women. There was 9 of us that left together. And I was told this by 2 of the women and I went, "Oh my God." And they said, "What?" I said, Pam, her name's Pam Cafrids. She was with Keith and CBI. Pam Cafrids came to me and told me the same exact thing about Nancy Salzman. Like Nancy, there's a podcast I did. It's on my website that I did with. I can't think of her name right now. I'm really embarrassed. But anyways, it's on my website. I'll think of it. Pam Cafritz came to me and said the same thing about Nancy. Nancy doesn't have any friends. She's the prefect. You know, she needs close friends. Do you think you could be her friend? And of course, me, you know, this is early on. I hadn't even been in 6 months. Yeah. And I said, of course I could be her friend, you know. Well, if you're a friend, you can't really talk about being her friend because she's a prefect and people will get jealous and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I could. And then I get in Nancy's car one time. This is really early on. Like, I think I hadn't even been in 3 months. And we're going to Starbucks, you know. I flew back to Albany for one of these meetings. We're going to Starbucks, right? And so we get in Nancy's car and she reaches over and she grabs my leg and she starts stroking the inside of my leg. And I'm like, I'm trying to be really cool. And she goes, you know, Susan, if we're ever going to have sex, you can't talk about it because I'm the prefect. And I'm going like, what do you mean have sex? It's like, 1, I don't think you're a lesbian. And 2, I'm in a long-term relationship. Whoever talked about us having sex? And I'm talking about all this in my head, and it's like, you're kind of my boss. Like, what do you mean talk about having sex? Like, how long is it till we get to Starbucks so I can get the fuck out of this car? It's like
Holy shit.
like when did we have a conversation about having sex?
You just launched that on the way to Starbucks as just
it's like, it's like, and I didn't know what to say because I had I was
Yeah.
in the Navy for like 10 years, and of course guys would say like gross things to me, like, and I'd just be like, ho, 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 and I kind of joke it off, like, or, like, when are we going to have sex? They'd say like things like, well, when are we going to have sex? And I'd be like, are you talking about the little friend in your pocket? Like, joking back and forth before, they had sexual harassment kind of things, but like, and we would just like, I would like scoot them along kind of thing, but like, here is Nancy Salzman, the president and owner of NXIVM, doing this shit to me, and I'm like, well, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that's extremely manipulative, crossing boundaries. Yeah, people in the comments are going off right now about that. So they're saying, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And that,
yeah.
I wanted to like, kind of, you had mentioned about like, when it's people's turn, like when they're ready to leave, it's their time, something like that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to like talk about that healing, because when we had our Zoom call beforehand, I had read those 3 quotes that I'd written down from season 1, episode 7 of The Vow. If you haven't watched it, that's when Susan is on it. Yeah. And I'm like a good little MLM hun bot. Sorry, I interrupted you. That's that.
Yeah. No. That's okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's when they are. It's not like you can't be a red flag for them, plant that little seed, those kinds of things.
I feel like I have this thing that I say in my head. I'm like, because on Sarah Edmondson and Nippy Ames podcast, A Little Bit Culty, I heard them say about like starting fires.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was on HBO, the documentary, like The Vow. I'm not sure, but I think it was like, and I've been like, I'm going to start fires and plant trees, and the trees are sequoias. So I'm really good at creating content, and I make a lot on TikTok. So that's when I started. I was just like going all out, because I know a lot of people are looky-loos when you leave an MLM, and I had somewhat of a high visibility within the coaching group. So, but I do want to read these out just for people, and then maybe like have you talk more about the healing, because a lot of this, especially with anti-MLM advocacy, is how to move on from this. It's so hard. Like, if people don't have access to therapy and all this, and you're you're the fucking goat. People already say that too. Like you've set such a good example, and you have empathy, and you've been out since 2009. So, okay, I've talked long enough, but this is the first quote when Mark Vicente comes to see you. It's like, you said to him whatever he said, but you said to him, it took what it took. Cause it was like, he had been in for so many years longer than you. The second thing that you said is really powerful. And I know a lot of us that create content identify with this. The stuff that you've done since you left is part of your healing. And this is the third one, and then I'll stop talking and then get back to you.
That's all right.
Okay. The guilt and the remorse, and for me, the betrayal, that does all eventually resolve, but it's a tough journey, and there's no way around it. You have to go through it.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys know the backstory on why Mark came to see me. Is when I left NXIVM, the first thing they did was shun me from everybody. If you wanted to stay in NXIVM, you had to shun me and the other eight women that left with me. And then immediately they started to do damage control. And so what they did is they held a forum in Albany, and they talked about, like, we tried to extort money from them, and that we were, bad people, and they were trying to get the cops to arrest us for the extortion, because we asked for, when we sent our resignation letter, and we asked for money that was owed to us, right? And then then they came to the Seattle area, and they invited, all the people that were enrolled in the Seattle area, and they did the same thing. And Mark was one of them that came, and Mark spoke out against me. And I had friends that had, when I put out my my constant contact emails saying, and I didn't go into why I was shutting down the school, because I didn't want them to use against me in a lawsuit. I just said, I'm shutting down the school such and such a date. If you have any content here at the school that you want, let me know. Make a date to come pick it up in a time, and I'll put it out on the front doorstep, and you can pick it up. But a bunch of people left with me, And so some of those people were all invited to the meeting because NXIVM didn't know who left and didn't leave. And some of my friends went with little pocket recorders and they recorded the meeting. So I heard everything that was said about me, you know. And so, and then they went to Vancouver, BC, which was going to be a satellite center of mine. And then I would have got 5% of that satellite center for the rest of my life, kind of thing. And so, and so when Mark wanted to meet with me, I was back in Albany. I mean, I was back in New York City. I was back there for one of the court hearings, you know, when NXIVM was going, the NXIVM people were going to their court cases. And so Mark, I heard from one of the film directors for What the Bleep that Mark wanted to talk to me. And of course I was going to meet with him, you know. I loved Mark, you know, while we were in NXIVM and stuff like that. And I was really glad when he had called me and said I left, you know, and, you know, I'm really sorry, blah, blah, blah. But he actually wanted to meet with me. And what he brought was my Susan is a piece of shit folder, you know, and all the content that they had collected on me all of the years after I left, you know, my activities. I don't know if you guys know this, but they parked a PI across the street from my house in the church parking lot for over a year after I left, you know, and he just lived in his car practically and spied on me. And then I would get followed and all kinds of shit and stuff. So he brought this folder of information on me, you know, the kind of stuff. And because I was a threat to them.
Yeah.
And so he was part of the executive board. After I left, they shook up the executive board and they put Mark was one of the executive board members, and he brought that to me and he just wanted to apologize that he was a part of those meetings and then a part of the executive board that, you know, did all this shit to me. And I didn't know it, you know. I mean, Sarah Edmondson called me too, and she said, you know, I'm really sorry that I talked badly about you for years after you left. And I'm like, you know, that's really nice, but I didn't know about it, you know. You know, it's really nice that you did. But, you know, I got calls like that, and it's like, I didn't know any of that shit was happening, but people just, I think, wanted to clear up their karma with me, kind of thing. And so that's what that whole meeting was about. And that's why I said those things that I said to Mark, you know, is that, you know, it's like, when we leave, we have certain karma that we have to clear up. You know, it's not like, you know, I stayed for years knowing those red flags existed. I stayed for years knowing that NXIVM was abusing people because they abused me. I know I wasn't the only one they were abusing. You know, it's like, and so I had karma to clean up. You know, and that's why I do what I do. You know, and people say, well, you haven't moved on. It's like, well, yeah, well, maybe that's true, but I'm moving in a different direction, you know, and that's one of the things that I do. And that's why I work with people one-on-one and I don't charge anything. You know, my whole therapy practice has changed in a different way. I don't see people that come here for marriage counseling and stuff like that. I work with survivors and I work with them. I don't charge anything. You know, and stuff. And I work with the Lawledge Center, and I don't charge them anything to work for them either. It's nonprofit now. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I do what I do. And that's why I do podcasts, you know, and I eventually want to start podcasting other people, you know, that are on the path of what they're doing to heal their stuff, you know, like Sarah and Nippy do. Mm-hmm. And you know, not with just cults, but like that's why I reached out to you. You know, it's like, hey, you know, let's do something. You know, because
I just about fell over. I'm like, holy fuck, are you kidding me? I'm like, yeah. You know? I'm like, I don't have a podcast. I have a YouTube channel. But it's like they actually have a tab where you just put this under podcast. So technically I do. I don't have a name for it. I'm just like, put an interview and then I put in a picture of this. Yeah, that's what the screenshot is of it. So that's where it's going to be after.
Yeah, it's like when we met, and you know, and kind of introduced ourselves to each other. I saw that, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. But you know, the thing is that you know, it's like, I was talking to somebody and I said, it's like when you first leave, it's like you're climbing this mountain and you're going through all your emotional baggage, kind of thing. And then you kind of get to the top and you go, I don't cry every time I talk about my shit, that kind of thing. And it's like you go like, oh my God, there is life after the shit I went through, and then you go like, oh, maybe I could start being there for other people, kind of thing, but gosh, I went through like a bazillion of these,
Yeah.
My therapist's office, and it's just like, oh God, I thought I would never stop crying a river about what the shit I went through.
Yeah.
But now I can talk about it and not be like a basket case on the floor.
Yeah. When I started speaking out right away, and then it was weird because I started to help other people kind of leave. They were already questioning. It just happened to be the right place at the right time. And then it was while I was doing that, it was almost like a distraction as well, I think, for me. And then when I realized I needed to get into therapy, I was like a fucking wreck. And when I left the multi-level marketing industry, I thought I had figured it out. I thought I had realized the abuse that I had been a part of in rank makers as well. Just like I had recruited people, I didn't get paid for it, but I just was like proselytizing however you say that word, into their inner circle coaching program. And I felt so much guilt. And I'm like, and I was horrified. I'm like, I started to realize the magnitude of what I had been a part of. And it kept peeling back as the months went by. And it was like month 4. I'm like, holy fuck. Like I thought I had the answers, but I didn't. And I think like a lot of people leaving multi-level marketing because it's still like it's considered a legitimate business model. There's something wrong with your mindset. There's something wrong with you. They'll go to another multi-level marketing company. They don't realize that you've been fucked with. Please get therapy as soon as possible. And not everybody has the same experience. That's true. But these are commercial cults. These systems, these models are designed for 99% of people to fail. That's how they work. So when you were talking about that, like in that one quote, that it does all eventually resolve. To me, that was like a beacon. I'm like, there's hope on the other side of this. Like the casual way you said it too. It's like it all does eventually resolve. Because I'm like, oh.
yeah, it does get better, and there is life on the other side. When you get on there, like it consumed my life for so long, and then finally it's like, oh, I could do other things besides my life be circled around this whole thing. Like I do other things. Like I think we talked about that, like I go camping and I have raised bed food gardens, and I spend time with my family, and, I have a 2.5-year-old grandniece, and gosh, she's kind of the apple of everybody's eyes, and stuff like that. And I have a small DJ business. So, it's like I do corporate events and weddings and stuff like that. And, it's like I do other things besides live in the cultiverse.
Yeah. I'm still in, like, I'm so new. Like I'm a year and 3 months out. And I recognize I know shit about fuck all. Like, and I know like someone like, you've been out since 2009. You had a lot. You went through a lot. You defended yourself against 7 of NXIVM lawyers and you won. That's, you went out, and it just helps to talk like this with somebody who's out, knowing that there's like peace ahead, because I still waffle between if I should show up and speak out or if I shouldn't. And then even it's been a year and 3 months. I mean, in that time frame, there's been so many times I'm like, am I the one that's fucked up? Maybe he really is a prophet. Like, I know it's fucked up, but it's like, maybe I really am. Maybe I have it all wrong.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know the guy, but I doubt he's a prophet. You can 911 me and say, I think he's a prophet. And I'll be like, let's do a little chit chat about that.
But questioning.
Keith.
I need to just get a screenshot of that, and that'll be the image. It'll be like, okay, back to reality, Julie. You had also said in our previous
conversation
before we did this, as you mentioned, I had written down about the sinkhole because I thought that was a really good.
Yeah. If Yeah,
Elon?
yeah. You were asking me. I think you asked me like, why do I do this and stuff? And my whole metaphor about that is that, if I was driving down the road and I saw a sinkhole that would damage a car or hurt somebody, that I would stop and I would let people know that there's a sinkhole here, and that even if the city or the county or whatever would say this is none of your business, and like, why are you doing this and stuff like that, is that I have a responsibility to let people know that this sinkhole exists. And I would just tell them to fuck off, that until they put up warning signs or did something to fix it, that I would stay there to protect people's lives. And so and I never got off the battlefield of NXIVM, regardless, because I knew eventually, based on Keith's behavior, like how he escalated things, that he would eventually do something
Yeah.
that the government would have to step in, and put an end to what he was doing. And he did. He created DOS, and finally the government said, we're not putting up with that shit,
Yeah.
and as cults go, we were lucky because they, there very rarely has a cult been dismantled like Keith was. But once that happened, once Nixon was taken down, then R. Kelly got taken down, Larry Ray got taken down, that kind of thing. And so now we have a system for the government to step in and say, we're not putting up with this shit anymore. And so now we have we have precedents set up for that to happen.
And if only they could have been with like pyramid scheme and multi-level marketing.
All it takes is for the government to take one of them down. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
But what it takes is for illegal activity to happen. It's really funny because I have people that contact me on Twitter and stuff. They'll DM me and stuff, and my whole thing is like, why are, I know this sounds weird, but it's like, why are people so protective of their cults, not their ex cults? It's like, oh, this is my ex cult and I'm going to work on taking my ex cult down. It's my ex cult, And I said, my ex cult's gone, it's been taken down. And so it's like, I said, why don't ex cult members just work together? Like, we could do one cult at a time, and just take it down, and then we can move on to the next cult, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I just, I chit chat sometimes on DMs with people and be like, why don't we do that? And so it's funny because there's this cult, and I'm not going to mention names right now, but there's this cult, and the guy, he got arrested for raping in India, and then he bailed out, kind of thing. And now he's in hiding. Well, we found out where he was hiding at. And then he started doing these funky little things that why is he doing this funky little thing? Because he's trying to get legitimacy for this country he created. And so these two people that aren't involved in cults and stuff, we kind of knocked our heads together, and we found a journalist in the UK that, started writing about him. So we kind of dragged her in, and then we dragged some people from that are ex cult members, kind of dragged them in. And so like we started all working together, and I'm like, oh, there's a team, And so the thing is that now news channels have picked up the fact that he's trying to, has this fake country, and he's trying to get cities in the United States and in the UK to become sister cities with his fake country, So CBS, NBC, Fox News, all of these news channels have picked up this fake city thing, and that he's wanted for rape charges, child abuse, all this kind of stuff in India. So it's possible to stop that, but you have to get people to work together. Like, what are the charges? What's the illegal activity? Where's the money going? The money laundering, those kinds of things. So you have to get people to work together in regards to that. But you have to get them on tax evasion, money laundering, sex abuse, because America doesn't have coercive control laws like they have in the UK. Those are the things that will take them down. Like Scientology, that's the thing that's going to take Scientology down, is not tax evasion because they're tax exempt. It's going to be the sexual abuse cases. That's what will take them down first. Although there are people within Scientology that are working on getting Scientology to lose their tax evasion status, or their tax exempt status taken away. So, but that's what it's going to take. Is I think it's going to take a group of like-minded people to work together where there isn't a control freak in charge.
Yeah.
You know, there isn't a narcissistic control freak to get in charge, kind of
And
thing.
it's like Dave says that this is really good. Maybe for some ex-cult members, just getting past their cult is hard enough. Having to see more cults could be so triggering.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that the group I'm working with is everybody's been out for a long time.
Oh
That
yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah. Same thing with MLM community. You have to find people that are far enough in their recovery that, you know, that you can put together a group and, you know, like in this group that I'm working with, you know, they have plenty of people doing research and stuff like that. So I'm not a researcher in that. I'm more the emotional support person,
Mhm.
you know, in that kind of thing. But, you know, it takes a group of like-minded people in regards to that to just work together and say, you know, how do we take this down? You know, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
And I do like, well, I'm still real new out to this, but I know some creators in the past have worked together, like anti-MLM creators have
Mhm.
worked together with other people, and they did take down. They were part of taking down. It was called Black Oxygen Organics. I don't know all the details, but it was like
Mhm.
dirt. You drink dirt. And I think it was out of Canada too. I think it was out of Ontario, some dump. They're just like selling dirt, and they said it like cured everything, and people would drink it. And I know a lot of people work together. So
Mhm.
but I do know, like, from people like exiting, they might think like me that I've healed, I figured it out, I'm not
Mhm.
part of the MLM industry anymore, but they get sucked into another one and they don't think it's an MLM and it's a crypto scam. And it
Mm.
actually is an MLM, but they call it something different. And then some
Right.
people can't afford therapy. So there's a lot of like unhealed, and I'm still going to be healing too, but there's so many, like, within the end, when people are leaving multi-level marketing, I feel like there's so much healing that needs to be done, because it's like some people can speak out and some people it's just there's no way they can, and it's just really hard to even find words to explain this. This is why I'm so happy we're talking about this, just because it's like it starts the conversation, other people talking like in the comments and stuff.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with um leaving and healing and moving on with your life. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody has to be a crusader, you know. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know, it's not for everybody, you know. And you know, out of all the people that left Nexium, it was just a handful of people that worked together to, you know, say, you know, we got to take this down, you know. And I mean, it only took a handful of people to really do that. But the people that did, you know, at the end, it was really the influence of Mark and Bonnie and Nippy and Sarah and, well, Catherine Oxenberg did a big part because she wanted to pull her daughter out, you know. And so Catherine Oxenberg, because she was an actor, you know, she had a lot of pull with the media and was able to do a lot of, you know, TV shows and you know, talk about Nexium from the perspective of pulling her daughter out and that
Right.
kind of thing. So, you know, and then we had a help from a blogger who had a lot of international, you know, but people were interested in the Nexium story, you know, and so and then people would call him, you know, and say, hey, I need to keep my name out of this, but blah, 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 you know, and then he would print stories and stuff.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, there's, you know, everybody's going to have their own healing process in what they perceive is important for them to do. You know, my journey's my journey, your journey is your journey, and everybody else's journey is their journey. And so everybody just has to decide what they want to do in regards to that. So I don't have a problem with, you know, I'm not here to say, oh, you have to do what I did.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
nobody has to do that, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. It's how do you like, do you have, are you like, did the relationships that you had while you were in like Nexium, I mean, time has passed, were relationships fractured? Was there healing? Like how did that look?
Well, some people I'm still in contact with, that, like we just did a Zoom call where there were 6 of us on the Zoom call, and
Oh,
like
yeah.
we all lived here, and then some people have moved on, and then, I'm friends with a lot of people still on Facebook and stuff, and then a lot of people I was cut off from because they had to shun me, and some of those people have come back into my life, that I'm friends with again. And some of them were just like, social media friends because, they live in different countries and stuff like that. And then, I've had 2 recent incidences where, um, well, not one was real recent and one was, during the trial where I thought people were my friends, but then they, did actions where I felt betrayed by them. And both of them tried to run scams on me, kind of thing where I thought, and that was really hurtful. It's kind of like, wow, did you learn this from Keith and Nancy kind of thing? And they're really nice until you catch them in the middle of their scam. And then when you call them out on the scam, then they behave, it's kind of like they do the Keith and Nancy behavior. Well, you're a horrible person. And, gosh, if I would have known this about you, then, and Keith and Nancy were right about you. And it's kind of like, wow, as long as I'm giving you what you want, I'm the nicest person in the world. But as soon as I stop giving you what you want, because whatever the circumstances were, then now I'm an evil person again. And it's kind of like how do you make that work? One wanted money because of blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go into detail because if you follow me on social media, you'll know why.
Right.
And I'm not in a position where I want to expose the scam yet. And then the other person was, it was during the trial and they were trying to pass bad juju around. And it was like, I don't think that's true. And then when I tried it when I did some research, I found out it wasn't, and it's like, why are you spreading lies that don't need to be spread,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And so,
Yeah. That's hard.
yeah, it's kind of like there's already enough bad things happening right now and enough, like, why are you trying to, and it wasn't even about me. It was about other people,
Yeah.
that had left. And it's like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
And it was also that they could look better in the
Yeah.
realm of things. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's kind of like, it's just like,
Oh, yeah. I know there's a lot of people here that are just like me saying, oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's lying when it's just as easy to tell the truth.
Mm.
I'm sure you probably run into people like that. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
we've already been through enough lies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just think it's people with narcissistic personality disorders kind of thing. It's kind of like, oh, we just left, this horrible organization, and it's like, but I think it's just, both of them were people that were involved with Keith in his CBI days, and then came over and they were with Keith in NXIVM. And then when it kind of blew, both of them left before it blew up, but they both I think neither one of them really went through a healing process kind of thing. So
That's it's really intense. Thank you for sharing a lot of that. It just brings up a lot of emotions, it must be me. Asks, do you ever feel like you owe it to others to help after you left?
I think it depends on how you mean owe it to others. I don't think I owe anybody financially.
Right.
Because I think that they got what they paid for in that regards. I just feel like it's a part of cleaning up my karma in regards to, helping survivors. I don't know how long I'll do it. Sometimes, I think this last betrayal piece that just took place over the last maybe 6 weeks, there's a part of me that went like, oh God, I'm done with this cult stuff. I'm just going to hang everything up and just enjoy the things of my life that are more fun kind of thing. And then I'll work with people for, like this last couple weeks where I worked with people, it was kind of like, oh yeah, now I know why I do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
because it can
I,
be, it can
I
be.
feel, I'm
Go ahead.
sorry. Oh, sorry. I feel like in my infancy of healing and recovering from this, I feel the same. Like I need to take time off, like off social media, because I didn't. I went from being like the busy work of being in a high control group, but it was all online. And then I just like continued on. And so I'm going to like take your advice about how I need to get strong, but in this time I need to be off social media, and I need to be no phone, just in the woods and just silence. And I need like 3 to 4 months of that. That's what I need. And then that's what I need to do to get strong. That's the next step. That's what I was like thinking about today before I was speaking with you. I'm like, this is the next stage of the advice. This is part of the healing. This is the next part of the healing I feel for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't think I've ever taken that long, except maybe not that long. But yeah, sometimes I'll just take 2 or 3 days and not check in with my social media. But again, I left in 2009, so I'm not.
Yeah, it's a different experience. The Rank Makers, this multi-level marketing coaching group I was part of for 5 years. I know I was telling you this when we had that Zoom call. I had gone live every day for 3.5 years straight. And that was at least one live video. And I would do like research. Sometimes it would be like not that big of a deal. But I would look online for articles, and I would share 7 tips of whatever, 7 tips to grow your hair longer. And we were taught that this method was called ILT, Invest, Learn, Teach, which is just plagiarizing. But it was a lot of work. And it didn't include all this other sending out, all these messages every day. At my height, I was sending out 200 messages a day, following up with about an average of 40 people a day, just doing all this busy work.
Right,
So
yeah.
that's why for me, like I think it's been good to just make a lot of content, because I can't just stop. I don't think that would be healthy. I don't think it could be possible. I'd take like a couple of days off here and there, but I think I need to have that break. The person I was before I got into this, like I didn't own a cell phone. I wasn't on social media. I want to kind of get back into that. Oh, there's another question here. I always feel bad about talking, because I can't stand when somebody is interviewing someone and they won't shut the fuck up, right? That's why I'm like, okay, back to you.
Yeah, I think it's good. Yeah, I wanted that. I wanted that interaction kind of thing. So.
Right. Okay. Stevie says, Susan, do you wish more of the anti-MLM, anti-scam community had existed when you left in 2009? What differences do you see in the environment now compared to then?
Yeah, and again, there was a gentleman. His name's Rick Ross, not the rapper kind of guy, but he had a big, it wasn't so much anti MLM guy, but he was an anti cult guy. And I actually went right before I left. I went to his website because I had so many questions about NXIVM, and NXIVM was actually suing him. And so I went to his website and I did a lot of research on what he had to say about NXIVM, and I was blown away by that. And so then I went to Nancy and started asking questions. She said, "Where are all these questions coming from?" And it was like blasphemy if you like went to his website kind of thing. But he had articles after articles after articles about NXIVM and legal cases and all this kind of stuff. And so I was honest with her, and I said, "Oh, I went to Rick Ross' website. Oh my God, she just like blew a gasket. I'm surprised she didn't stroke out." And like, "Oh, you've changed your internal representation of our program forever, and you can never go back," and blah 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 blah. But and a lot of people wouldn't read, like, if something came out in the Times Union, which is the Albany newspaper kind of thing. People wouldn't read the articles, but if I was back there and the article was in the paper, I would always read it and stuff like that. And because NXIVM always taught is always best to get as much information as you could to make an informed decision kind of thing. And so I just told her, I said, is any of this true? Like, what is it on this website that's true? Well, I've never been to the website, blah, 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 blah. And so I just started asking her questions. Well, is this true? Is this true? Is this true? And she would just, all she would do is just like scream and like, try to tell me what a bad person I was for going there, kind of thing. And so, all of that was just like, it's like all of that is making my redwood shelf start to collapse even more. Creak, 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 creak. It's kind of like, oh my God, you can't even answer a fucking question. All you want to do is attack me because I'm asking these things. And so, the thing is that I don't know so much if I wish those kinds of things were out there, because I don't know, the whole pyramid scheme of how NXIVM was structured. I was always, because I was in so much of that in regards to that. Yeah, I was really broke and stuff like that, but I was always able to kind of cover my monthly nut in regards to that. And I didn't really even look at NXIVM. The thing with the MLM part of it is that when Keith's consumer byline was shut down, is he was court ordered, and I didn't know this at the time. Keith and Karen Unterreiner and Pam Cafords were permanently adjoined by the New York State Attorney General from ever opening up another network marketing company. So that's why he had to put NXIVM in Nancy Salzman's name. She was the actual owner of NXIVM, because Keith couldn't do that. And so he hid that company under her name, that kind of thing. And then they called the name of the train was called First Principle, and they co-owned that. And then they shifted the training over to NXIVM, and then he got 10% of that training, kind of thing, that she had to pay him, kind of thing. But they always kept the money inside the corporation. And then if he needed things like clothes, fooding, that kind of stuff, food, that kind of thing, then they would just kind of suddenly appear, in his condo, kind of thing. And Nancy would just buy that probably out of cash that they collected, kind of thing. And so, so he kind of lived this life that looked like a renunciate, like he didn't own anything, but money was just shifted through the corporation over to his inner circle things, and they would just buy him shit, like the Brofman sisters bought him a $100,000 grand piano, and it was in Nancy's house. But it wasn't even Nancy's house. Sarah Brofman bought this house that Nancy lived in, this beautiful, big, expensive house. And it wasn't even in Nancy's name. It was in Sarah Brofman's house. And so, it wasn't until I really started to wake up after I left that I realized that this horrible pyramid scheme, and why people were always, almost everybody in the company was broke all the time, because all the money was shifted to corporate, that kind of thing. And, and then I had this, even though, everything was in sixes, like if you look at the pay plan of Amway, the little 6 little circles, that kind of thing and stuff like that. And the attorney general was asking me about the pyramid scheme, and I broke out the field trainer manual, and I was looking at the field trainer manual, and I'm going like, oh my God, this thing is like, everything shifts up to the top, and stuff like that. And people would ask me all the time, and we were talking about this, Julie, when we had our conversation before this, is like, people would say, how is this not a network marketing thing? And I'd be like, I don't know. You have to ask Keith and Nancy, because I didn't know how it was and how it wasn't, because they kept saying it wasn't a network marketing company. And it'd be like, I don't know. You have to ask Keith and Nancy, and when you got to the yellow sash, which was started out white, and then it went to yellow. And and then there was 4 stripes on each sash before you got your next sash. And when you went to yellow and you got to your second stripe, you couldn't be attached to any network marketing company. And people that came in that were in network marketing company that wanted to move up the straight path, they would say, you know, like if they had to leave their Mary Kay business or whatever business, they would be like, well, how is this not my network marketing? And I'd be like, I don't know. I don't understand. You know, it kind of looks like a network marketing, but I don't understand. You know, and like, how could I not understand that? It's because I was under the juju, you know, of I was under the spell of NXIVM, you know, and when you're that deep involved, it's like they put the spell on you, you know, kind of thing. And like it's like you like you're under the Kool-Aid, you know, and like when you go to the mothership, they just dunk you back in the Kool-Aid. And I was back there at least once a month for field trainer meetings, if not back for something else they called me back there for, you know. And so like I'd come home and I'd detox, and then they'd call me back and they'd dunk me back in, you know. You'd be like, oh, I don't know. You know, you have to ask Keith and Nancy, you know, because I was under the spell of the Kool-Aid. You know,
Yeah.
nobody stays in a cult that long without being under the spell of the Kool-Aid. You know,
Yes.
nobody stays in network marketing. If you're awake and you go like, oh, fuck this, nobody's going to make money doing this. You know, nobody would stay in. You'd all get out.
Exactly. It's funny, like how you're describing, like I can see now the importance of getting to events. That's why they're always in multi-level marketing now. Get to an event. You need to get to this event. Your business is going to transform. We have these fake statistics. 82% of people that come, their businesses quadruples if they attend this event. And that's what basically that you were doing. But it was like once a month, like having to go there. I can see the similarities, like it's virtual. We have like events that you can attend virtually, but also like go like once a year to these big conventions where it's just like this. It's such a spectacle. It's so much fun. I remember I was like, they're saying this is like a cult. I'm like, I don't care. It's so amazing. But then also we have like the videos that we're doing all the time with additional trainings and like uplines, people that we really respect and admire, and these MLM coaches. It's the same thing. Like you don't get a break. You're constantly indoctrinated.
Constantly. Yeah, I mean, you're constantly being fed, you know, whether it's motivational things they send you to listen to, you're constantly being indoctrinated into something. You know, we had if I wasn't in Albany, then it was a proctor call, you know. It's like, you know, once a week proctor call with you know, or you know, you'd get like a phone call from Nancy's assistant, you know, like blah 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 blah, or Nancy would call me. I mean, gosh, if I was in the shower and Nancy called me, and then I pick up the phone and I'd go into panic right away. But then when I'd call her, she'd be like, why didn't you answer? And I'm like, well, I'm in the shower. Yeah, I was in the shower. And then I'd get shit about like, well, like why didn't you answer the phone? I was in the shower. Well, why didn't you answer it? Because I was in the shower. You know, it's like I wasn't immediately available to the prefect. It's like, was I supposed to get out and answer the phone, like dripping wet, you know, with suds in my hair? You know, it's like, you know, it's like.
Sam asks, so you were shut down when you asked questions? Because it's funny because they tell you that you should do this research to make informed decisions. But yet when you did, and then you're asking, you're critically thinking and you're asking, you got serious pushback. With us, it's like, you're a hater. You're uncoachable. You're a negative, toxic, venomous bully.
Yeah, it's my breach, you know.
Your breach.
Yeah. Yeah. And then if I'd say, well, you teach this, and then you shutting me down for asking questions. Well, you just don't understand because it's your breach. I mean, everything was about your breach, you know, or you're just being suppressive, you know, because they taught this whole module on suppressives. You know, it's funny because the first time they taught it, everybody's walking around going, am I suppressive? Do you think I'm suppressive? Could you give me an EM on being, you know, do you think I'm suppressive? Everybody was walking around being suppressive. But the thing is that what they were really teaching is Keith was suppressive, but nobody's looking at Keith as if he's the suppressive, because everybody's running around going, do you think I'm suppressive?
Yeah.
He taught us everything he was doing, but nobody looked at him because we're all running around going, am I that?
That's exactly it. That's exactly what I see going on. And that's been my experience too. It's weird now being on the outside when I'll look at a video or a transcript and I'm like, holy fuck. Like this guy, he's like, I'm not saying I'm a prophet. And then he says, and I'm like, that's his shtick. I'm not saying I'm like the most intelligent person in the room. but then it's like whatever, this NLP kind of weird shit that we're all just like, oh, this means he's a prophet, but he hasn't actually said it. He could have that. I never really said it, but that is what he's doing. And he said this, there's like a second inferring the second coming. And then he like is quoting Bible verses now. It's the same. It's like, it's all laid out there. It's like, I can't believe I didn't see this. And when I first started speaking out, I look at some of my videos and I'm like, well, he wasn't like this when I was in it. And then as I'm saying that, I'm like, I'm making excuses for this. And then somebody had commented, somebody that had been in the group, they're like, he was always like this. You're finally like, the veil is lifting. And I could hear myself like make these excuses. And it sounded like, well, I'm better than other people because it wasn't happening when I was in it. And of course, now it's like, as time goes by and I'm looking back at these same trainings that I'm looking at, reacting to, and I'm like, he was like this. How the hell how did I not see this? So this is another thing, like, there's so many things where you're pushing back. Like, you're like, this is fucking wrong. Like, this is stupid. I'm not like, oh, Keith, right? Did you not see certain things? Like, was there something that when you left, you're like, how the fuck did I not see this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, not good, but I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Well, you're under the spell, you're under the spell. So it's like when you leave and you detox, then you can see more clearly, and it's so funny because, people have said, well, they'll watch The Vow and then they'll email me and they say like, how could you not have known? It's like, well, yeah, you just watched The Vow and you got the whole fire hose.
Exactly.
It doesn't happen that way. It's not like you walked in to take a 16-day training and you walked into The Vow, and it's like, oh yeah, I like this and I'm going to stick around for this shit.
Exactly. People don't, you know what I say to fuckers like that? And I don't like, I just get so irritated is because I'm like, you're not, you know what? You have no fucking empathy or compassion. You would do very well as opening up at your own MLM if you have that much disdain for people where you're like, how could you get sucked into that? Like, I'm so fucking, I get that. That's my fight response. I'm like, because it's just, if you believe that it can't happen to you, that's your vulnerability. That's like a big, like, I think that's a big blind spot for people. I would have said this would have never happened to me. And I was like 42. 5 years later, coming out of the side of this, like, what the fuck, Julie?
Yeah, I wrote a blog about that on my website because this woman, she did exactly that. And it's like, oh yeah, it's like you think that because you play war games on your computer that you know what it's like to be on the war front. You know exactly what it's like to come back from Afghanistan. Would you say that to somebody? Oh, I know exactly what it was like for you to be in Afghanistan. It's like, you little biatchy. It's like, I watched The Vow, so I know exactly what it was like when you went to your first 16-day. It's like, that's not exactly what I said, but that, kind of sums it up.
Yeah, I totally understand. I mean, I don't totally understand, but I get the vibe. Like, there's this one part of my experience of being involved in this coaching group is there was this reality show that was produced over 2 seasons in 2019, 2020. And so many of us that have left, we're just so horrified that we didn't see the abuse. And it's just out there on YouTube. It's so fucking crazy that it's still out there. And it's so bad. Anybody that sees this is horrified. And it's I've like tried, and it's great because now there's a lot of creators that are finally covering this. The problem is that these people in there are still within the group. They're still within the multi-level marketing industry. Some people have left. Right. Some people have like realized and woken up. But I'm like, how in the hell do you even start exposing this with compassion when some of these people are now, they've turned into abusers themselves. But besides all that, we couldn't see the abuse. We thought it was excellent coaching. And it is weird now. When I look back, it's the most disgusting, horrible thing. Like, I feel I betrayed myself. I'm trying to like reconcile that. How did I not see this? I know it's like you're under the spell, but it's really fucking hard, And that's not even why I left. I wish I had left because I saw the abuse. Mostly why I left was because the fucker didn't pay me for a TikTok training. I feel like such a selfish idiot for that. But that was kind of like one of the things that kind of started me to see more contradictions. I wish it had been that I saw this abuse and I'm like, that's wrong. But it wasn't. I didn't even see it.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is that that's what that's what collapsed your shelf was the TikTok training, you know? There
Yeah.
were probably other things up on the shelf, but the not paying you for the TikTok training is what collapsed your shelf, and then when you left and you were able to detox enough, then you were able to look back on it and say, "Oh, yeah, you know, that happened and that happened." But that always happens in retrospect is once you've detoxed enough, you're able to say like, "Oh my God, you know, oh my God, you know, oh my God, you know." And so you're always able to see clearer in retrospect that, you know, all this other stuff took place, you know, because you have a clear mind. You're not being dunked into the juju juice all the time, you know? So,
Somebody was liking this. They said Juju. They were oh, I'm just gonna try to scroll back, see if I could find it. I'm sorry, somebody, oh wait, Sweet Goth. Sweet Goth says Juju. They like here saying
yeah,
Juju.
yeah. Yeah, but it's like, you know, it's like, you know, when you it's really it's I mean, if you take the whole, drug rehab program, you know, it's like we it's like an addiction that we become involved in, and then we go through our own detox, you know, and like you just have a much clearer mind when you've detoxed from it, you know, and so people say, "Oh, you're just, you know, going through retro, you know, you're looking back and making up shit." It's like, no, I can see clearly, you know, I
Yeah,
can see so much clearly
yeah.
now of the shit that happened.
And what's good now? Everything is on, like, for nowadays. Everything is on Facebook for a lot of us that were pumping out a lot of content.
Mhm.
I can see what I look like. And I look like I have like these black dots in my eyes. I'm fucking brainwashed. I'm like, really, I look weird. It's so messed up. And even like the trainings from different multi-level marketing coaches, multi-level, just people within multi-level marketing, it's all up there. So
Mhm.
you can't get away from it now. Now it's like, I don't know, it's kind of weird. There's so much information is out there. They can't deny it, but yet it's still going. It's proliferating.
Yeah, well, I mean, even if you haven't seen The Vow and you watch where I'm in season 7, like carried a lot of weight, you know, because the weight was kind of my protection kind of thing. And then, you know, you look at me when Keith got sentenced when I'm coming out of the courtroom. Like if you watch The Vow 2 at the very end, I hated The Vow too because of they just, you know, they had Nancy on all of it. And she's just trying to justify, well, I didn't know anything. And I'm like, you are such a fucking liar. You know, you knew everything. And
Mm.
you knew it when I was in, you know, kind of thing. So and I come out at the very end and they said, well, maybe you'll get a couple of years off for good behavior. You know, you got a 120-year sentence, a couple of years isn't gonna make a difference because he'll be dead by then, you know, kind of thing. But you can see the difference in, you know, when he was arrested and he was, you know, waiting trial versus when he got sentenced, you know, I was able to lose all of that weight kind of
Oh,
thing, you know, and stuff. And because it was so like, oh my God, I'm finally safe from these assholes, you know.
right.
They're not going to come after me. They're not going to sue me again. They're blah, blah, blah kind of thing. And so, you know, we do all kinds of things when when we're going through our trauma responses and then you know we're up that mountain, you know, kind of thing. And so you know, there's all kinds of things that I mean, some people won't eat, some people will eat, some people don't sleep, some people, you know, will sleep too much, you know, some people are, you know, there's all kinds of different things that take place in regards to our trauma responses in regards to our recovery kind of thing. Some people need downtime, some people you know, like they'll overwork, underwork, you know, you know, some people I know, they're still living with their parents, you know, that kind of thing, because they, you know, they just can't, um, they need that time to, you know, when some people are living with their parents because they're going to college, those kinds of things, you know, they're rebuilding their lives, that kind of thing. But some people are that I know that were in NXIVM are still living with their parents because they just are, they just can't pull their lives together yet enough, you know, that kind of thing. So, yeah, it's a tough road when you've been, um, when you've been that beat up, you
Yeah.
know, in any kind of abusive kind of relationship.
You had said something during our Zoom call too. I feel like I like to and it was something about like healing, and it was about when you accept yourself, something like the world accepts you. It
Mhm.
was what? Can you say that again? Because you said it really
Yeah.
good.
I had a real hard time saying, you know, that I had been in a cult, you know, and, because I felt like every time well, one, when I said that, it was like a, you know, a sucker punch to my stomach kind of thing. And then when I said that, you know, it was like, um, people don't know how to react, you know, to that kind of thing. And then, I really had to become comfortable with saying that, you know, that I came, you know, that I was in a cult, because most people think, "Oh, God, how could you be so stupid with being in a cult?" And then what I had to do is, go back to the time when, you know, from a young age, I knew that I was a lesbian,
Mhm.
and I tried everything in the world to not be a lesbian, because, you know, I was born in the time when being a lesbian was not socially acceptable. It's a lot more acceptable now. And so, you know, I just didn't want to be in high school and, you know, not have a boyfriend because that was the thing to do, and not go to the prom because that was the thing to do, and stuff like that. And I was really afraid of how my parents would react and stuff like that. So I was very closeted, even to myself, you know, like, oh, I'm not a lesbian and stuff. And so when I finally came out, to make a long story short, I was very homophobic internally and stuff. And so I had to get comfortable with the fact that I was gay and stuff. And then once I became comfortable with being a lesbian woman, like the whole world became comfortable with me being gay. My family became comfortable, even though they said, "Oh, we kind of thought you were, and it's cool." And my whole extended family was okay with it and stuff. And so what I did is, when with the whole cult thing, is I reverted back to that whole time in my life where I was like so uncomfortable. And I thought, you know what, if I get comfortable with this, then I can make my I can work on making it okay for other people to hear that I was in a cult, you know, and I don't have to be closeted about this. And if people are upset with it and say, "Oh, how could you be so stupid?" You know, I can have compassion for them because they just don't understand, you
Mhm.
know? And, you know, it's like people invested with Bernie Madoff, and they did
Mhm.
it because they thought they were gonna get a better return of interest, you know? And I don't have to go like, "Well, how could you be so stupid to invest with him?" You know, "You could have done the S&P 500," you know, that
Mhm.
kind of thing. And so what I did is I really worked with myself to just be comfortable that, you know, I got in a cult, and cults don't want people that are stupid. You know, they want people, and MLMs are the same way. They don't want stupid, lazy people. They want people that are producers, and they want people that are intelligent and have a good work ethic, you know, and that's what cults want. The other thing leaders want is they want people that will have sex with them, you know, that kind of thing. And so once I became comfortable with the fact that I was in a cult and it doesn't punch me in the gut anymore, then I was able to openly talk about it. And then when people have a reaction, I was able to say, yeah, well, you just don't understand, you know, and then use examples like the Bernie Madoff investment thing, you
Right.
know, and use like, well, you just don't understand, you know.
Right.
And if you are to go to my website and you read the blog that I wrote to the woman, I was able to be compassionate with her instead of, you know, go like, "Oh, okay, you know, you're really a stupid bitch, and, you know, maybe you ought to take a look at this differently." But when I first got her message to me, I'm thinking like, "Oh god, you're like really like, you know, maybe you should, you know." And
Yeah.
so the thing is that, you know, I can be different in the world now because I'm different with myself in regards to that.
Right.
So,
Thank you so much for that, because I know for many people, myself included, you're like, there's a stigma of shame, especially with multi-level marketing. You leave and you think that you believe that it is your fault. There's something wrong with your mindset. You've self-sabotaged, you've got limiting beliefs. So then you don't want to speak out because you don't even, you think that there's just something wrong with you. You don't even want to talk about it. You just want to
mhm,
hide and pretend. And so that's what's so powerful, is hearing other people's stories, just being like, this is what I did. And it kind of, when I saw other people speaking out, I remember watching YouTube videos. When I started to wake up, I started like, when you were looking at Rick Ross's site and looking, I started taking as much information as I could. And then I was listening to podcasts and I'm like, holy shit. And I couldn't get enough. I wanted to figure out what had happened to me. And anyway, I just lost my train of thought. So I was talking long enough anyway. So
okay. No, I think it's good that we're bouncing off of each other because people be like, oh my God, she just won't shut up. I mean, I'm talking about me kind of thing.
Oh, they're here for you. So that's the thing. There's somebody on as a guest. That's important. Oh, when you're owning like who you are, and then it makes it like the world just like accepts you. But then you can have compassion for other people. I run hot and cold. Some days I'm on and I'm like, fuck, like Julie, like you have healed. Like that's so impressive. And some days I'm a fucking asshole. Like, and I'm not there. And I know I'm still new out, but it's like there's hope. Hearing you talk, I'm like, oh, there's hope.
Yeah, well, some days I can be that way. If I'm really triggered, if I look at, if you look at the trauma response wheel, it's like some days I'm really triggered and I'm like a Wolverine, and it's usually because I'm triggered and I haven't recognized it and I'm not taking care of my triggers, kind of thing. Like I don't like to, like if somebody says, "Oh, he told you that," and I don't think they told me that, and they're trying to blame me for something. I can go right back to like, oh, you treat me like Nancy Salzman. And I can just be like, I can be a raving Wolverine. It's like, oh, how dare you blame me for something, blah, blah, blah. And one of the things that, like if somebody was born in a cult, they're easier to manipulate and mind bend than somebody who joined it as an adult, because you have to beat the shit out of somebody as an adult to get them to mind bend them, kind of thing. And so, and the same thing with MLMs, to get people to stick around, and buy into it, you just have to you have to beat the shit out of them. They start, cults and MLMs are, I think, really similar in a lot of ways, is that, you love bomb them at first when they come in and stuff like that. And then after a while, when they start to be like a little lazy, you just kind of have to beat the shit out of them in kind of a kind way, like, oh yeah, maybe you just need to, get some more motivational stuff, like, and like they'll, I mean, more motivational stuff, maybe some coaching, those kinds of things and stuff like that. But there's always the carrot and the stick, and they'll find out who needs the carrot and who needs the stick, kind of thing. But if you need too many carrots, then they're just going to like drop your ass because they don't have time for the carrots. You have to be producing.
Yeah, it's like they like the stick. It's like the carrot is there to like lead you to like the stick. That's what it's been like in the multi-level marketing coaching industry. It's like you're taking coaching and you think, oh, like we were taught, if you got hit in the face with a 2x4, you show up and you do that live video. You need to show up every day for the person that's been abused.
Right.
They're praying on their hands and knees for business opportunity. And you are so selfish. And it's just like, it just gets it. I mean, it didn't start like that, right. But I was in already, and I'm like, fuck, that makes sense. Like, yes, right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, and they know all of that. Like when I'm spending time with people in the cultiverse, it's like we joke around like there's this playbook. On the dark web, there's this playbook where the cult leaders go and they look at the playbook and then they know how to get to us. I think it's the same way in MLMs. It's like the leaders, the MLMs, they have this playbook and they know how to go. They go there and they learn how to manipulate people.
Yes.
And they have special trainings where they learn how to manipulate their followers and stuff like that. Well, if this doesn't work, try this. And if that doesn't work, then try this,
Yeah, they have masterminds where they do it. And it's like the coach then coaches the coaches. And it spreads. And that's totally it. There's Carly says, I feel like you're a celebrity, Susan. I remember the first time watching The Vow. I've rewatched multiple times and just thinking what a badass you are. I admire you.
Oh, thanks. It's so funny because, I got these badass cards, the badass. Remember I did your reading? It pulled your cards.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
got that.
this is my
So
reading. If you didn't know this, she did a reading for me.
it's so funny because several people have commented on those, and there's this one woman on Instagram. She's followed me, and we've like commented on each other's stuff. And so, and she went to Thailand, and I followed all of her stuff, and she asked me a question on my website. So I reached out to her one day and I said, "Hey, well, like, why don't I do your badass cards?" And she said, "Oh, really?" That kind of thing. And so we set up a time to meet over Zoom and stuff. And she goes, "Oh God, I can't believe I'm talking to you." And it's so funny because I find it so funny when people say that, "Oh, I feel like you're a celebrity," and it's like, ah, God, I I don't feel that way about myself at all.
You
It's
can
like,
tell. No, but you
mm,
can tell. That's why it's even better. Because there's some people that fucking think they're so good. Like you just know, right? And that's
yeah,
what you really are. Like
yeah, it's like, yeah, it's just like, it's like I haven't done anything, I haven't done anything in I left, I got sued, and I worked my ass off to win my lawsuit, and I was in like a split second of the vow, you know,
no, and
and that,
I think it's kind of you're in a split second, but it was so profound. Like it really, like your story it's so big. It needs to be told. People need to hear it, especially in multi-level marketing. Like I'm sorry I interrupted you, but there was this
oh,
one. I think you've talked about this again on that. I'm gonna have to. I think I'll definitely put the link to Chris Shelton's interview on here and anything else we named, where you were. Oh, fuck, I'm starting to lose my train of thought, and I'm getting all excited.
yeah, we're talking about the celebrity status kind of thing.
That is,
Yeah.
oh, it slipped. I'm so
Yeah, I just don't feel that way about myself. It's like, yeah, I just
Oh, I remember.
okay.
How did you, because you had to declare bankruptcy.
Mhm,
I know this is kind of going back, but
mhm.
then you had to defend yourself. Could you share the story of like how you learned how to defend yourself?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's funny.
That
Um,
resiliency of like coming out and being like that badass. That's why it's so empowering for people to hear this. Be like, she fucking did it. She stood up. She got it done.
yeah, yeah, well, of course, I didn't have any money. It's a bankruptcy, and so, NXIVM came into my bankruptcy as adversaries, and so after you go through your bankruptcy case, you have, so many days before your bankrupt I mean, my bankruptcy was granted, and then you have so many days before, anybody that you declare bankruptcy as can come in and say, "Well, wait a minute," and they can become adversaries. And so Nexium waited till the final day, till the final hour. Like at 5 o'clock, my bankruptcy would have been totally over. And at 4 o'clock, they came in and filed an adversary case against me and said, "Well, wait a minute, we think she lied in her bankruptcy, and besides that, your honor, blah blah blah." So they filed all these claims against me, like I ruined millions of dollars worth of their business, and I created extortion against them, and all these other things. And so they created an adversary case against me. And so then what that meant is I had to fight this adversary case. And I was told they were going to do this, by several people who had been sued by them, that was going to happen. And so I waited as long as I possibly could to file my bankruptcy so that I could get my shit together enough to um, have this case against me filed. And then so I went to therapy, and then I was pretty sure that I was not gonna find an attorney to represent me pro bono, which is free. They'll take my case on for free. But I called several law firms in my area and said, "Hey, I think I'm gonna get sued by this corporation." And they would just Google Nexium, and they would look at all the cases that they have done because they were litigious against people. And they'd say, yeah, no thanks," you know? Or they would be like, "We'll do it for a $50,000 retainer." And I'd be like, "I'm broke," you know? And I knew that Nexon would go through that $50,000 like in a week by filing just crappy motions and stuff like that. And I knew it would cost me at least 250,000, if not $500,000 to hire an attorney. And so, um, So I went online and I took a course called How to Win in Court. And it
You should be an affiliate for that fucking course. That's all I'm
well, and
saying.
all it
You
did
can
was
sell
teach
the
you
hell
about
out of that.
well, all it did was teach you about different motions, like an emotion in lime, a motion to quash, how to subpoena somebody and stuff like that. And then I had Peter Skolnick was the attorney who fought the Rick Ross versus NXIVM, or NXIVM versus Rick Ross case. And he couldn't represent me. He was in New Jersey. And I called him and I said, look, I am not going to get through this case, but on my own. I said, can I call you if I need some advice? And he said, oh, sure. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. He said, let me try to find you an attorney. And I said, good luck. I've already called all of them. So, but he did. He called some law firms out here. And then he was coming out to visit his brother-in-law, I think, out here, out by where I live. So we met and had coffee and stuff like that. And he was trying to, help me and just during that meeting and stuff. And so, and he said, yeah, just give me a call or, if you need something. So every once in a while I'd call him and I'd say, I don't understand this, and he'd be like, he'd talk me through it. And then there's this other guy that was an attorney who got sued by NXIVM. And he said, yeah, I'll help you, just give me a call and stuff like that. And so every once in a while I'd mail him something. I'd say, I don't understand this. And you go, oh yeah, these are the steps. Just file this, this, and this, and give me a call if you need anything. And so I would do that and stuff. And so I didn't work at all. My wife worked, and so my job was to get through the court case and stuff. And so some days I'd just be pulling my hair out, or I'd be on the floor. I'd be like, oh my God, I should just commit suicide. Sometimes I was really suicidal about that. And I'd phone a friend, they'd have to pick me up off the floor. And or I call Joe or I call Peter and I'd be like, oh, I just need, can you just talk me through this motion? And they would, and I'd just be like, take. And then I'd like have to spell check it because I'm a horrible spell checker. Or my wife would spell check it and stuff like that. And then I go file the motion at the courthouse, and the whole courthouse got to know me. And it was kind of a David versus Goliath law case. And then we had to go through mediation and all this kind of stuff. And they wanted a 5-day trial, but the judge said, no, we're going to give you, I think it was 2.5 days. And then they wanted to keep dragging it on, stuff like that. And they wanted to file all kinds of shit. And the judge, when I was the first day, the judge is like, you need to get an attorney, Miss Stones. These are very serious charges against you and stuff like that. And the judge is like, I'm standing there crying. And I'm like, I tried really hard, Your Honor, and I know you hate pro se defendants. And I said, but I will do my best to represent myself in a professional manner. So, and I said, but I will prove to you in 90 days that this is a cult, and I know they're throwing the Brofman name around, but, and so in about 90 days, I had educated them through my filings that they were not above board. I didn't know if I proved that that was a cult, but that they were not above board because they pulled all kinds of games, clown games in the court. And I'm sorry, the clown people,
Town.
the clown town. I'm sorry about that, but they would just pulled all kinds of shit, like stuff other people did not, because we'd have motion day and we'd go there and we always had to go last. And I'm like watching all these other bankruptcy cases, and I leaned over to my friend who went with me every day, every time we had to go, and I'd say, he always makes us go last. Why? And then one time it dawned on me that he didn't want to poison his courtroom with the clown shit that went on in the courtroom. And I said, he makes us go last because they pull crap in it. They would lie, and I'd catch them in lies. Maybe, Your Honor, next time says this, but in the last time we were in here, they said that, and he'd pull the notes up and he'd be like, you're right, Miss Stones. Kind of shit.
How weird was that? Like, to be like, did you have moments of like surrealness where you're like, I'm standing here asking like this question like a lawyer? Like, it's just so fucking weird.
It actually, I had my Perry Mason moments.
Right on. It's like, so I don't know. I've been saving this. That would be this. Susan enters the courtroom. This is the Jason Bourne theme. That's it.
Yeah. But then, then we had the trial, and they sent Claire Brofman out to be the expert witness, and I was all prepared for her, kind of thing. So I asked her questions, and every once in a while she'd be, well, he's the vanguard. He's the vanguard, and I'd be like, this is a yes or no answer, and she'd be like, like circling around the answer, because I had her trapped, kind of thing. And she would be like trying to circle the answer, and I'd say, Your Honor, this is a yes or no question. Could you get Miss Brofman to say, answer the question? He'd look at her and go, Miss Brofman, this is a yes or no answer.
Wow, that must have pissed her off, because that power dynamic shifted pretty fast.
Yeah, and then the whole back of it, when I was on the stand, the whole back of the courtroom was filled with people from the courthouse, So
Oh
at
my
lunchtime, the court clerk walked by, and I said, why are you all in my court case? She goes, we've never had a case this interesting.
Oh my God. It's probably they tell their kids about this. It's like, I remember in 2009, I was there, right?
Yeah. Well, it was actually 2010, but she goes, good luck.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it was really funny. I mean, I was the whole time I was totally stressed out, but then when it was all over, and then it took the judge a few months to write his decision. But then the only thing he found me guilty with is he said in his court, I can't remember the words he used, but it came out the meaning was as I was angry. And it's like, you're damn Skippy, I was angry,
Yeah.
He said all these lies about me.
I'm angry. I'm angry hearing you say that I'm angry. Like, what? Is that illegal? What the hell?
Yeah. It's like, you're damn Skippy, I was angry. And then he said, about my wife, he said the only thing she tried to do was walk away, It's like, yeah, that's true. She never did anything but try to walk away. But yeah, life goes on. But yeah. And so one of the things that I would really like to do is, and it's a small goal of mine. Well, it's not a small goal. It's actually a big goal, but it's on the back burner right now, is to set up, and I've talked to several attorneys about this, is to set up an attorney in the box kind of program and then work with several attorney firms around the United States, and eventually branch that out, where if people are in trouble like I was, is they would have a program that they could go through, and then attorneys like I had to call and say, hey, can you help me with this? Because I don't understand it. And because I chose, I was Joe and Peter said, hey, you should go to law school. And I'm like, I'm too burnt out to go to law school. And now I'm just like, I'm at the age where I don't want to go back into that kind of debt and go to law school. Mm-hmm. But, if I could find attorneys that would be willing to like not be a representing attorney, but to like help out and say, yeah, my firm will help out with this. Because the attorneys don't actually have to do that. Paralegals could do that. And they could do it pro bono.
Oh, that would be cool. That'd be so cool. That'd be cool, just because there's like some people that get like threats of like cease and desist letters. That's kind of popular, like in this space occasionally. That, I don't know, it's more, and they're just really stupid. It's meant to intimidate people into starting like speaking out. And there are some people that do get lawsuits, and that would be helpful, because a lot of people, they just don't want to, they're just taking your money, and these lawyers are just taking their money every time they pick up the phone call, like the phone, it's another $100. And it's just like, it would be nice if they had some guidance through this.
Right. But the will's already been created. The thing is that it's not rocket science to go into a courtroom and represent yourself.
Fuck, this is awesome. It's not rocket science to go into a courtroom and represent yourself. That would be like the new meme. It'll be like, you're going to be like all over the internet like that. That's so awesome.
Right. Yeah. So
you're proof, like you did it.
Yeah. Like if I did it, other people can do it. You just have to have the cojones, to, and I don't mean that in a sexual term. You just have to say, fuck you. I'm not going to let you take advantage of me, because there's nothing to sue over, and that NXIVM had a confidentiality agreement, but the judge said, only if you're in a classroom and you've read the mission statement and you're wearing your sash does that confidentiality agreement is upheld.
That frees things up.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know, you can't hold her accountable because you had a side conversation in Nancy Salzman's house where you told her that, you know, the Brofmans lost $68 million in the commodities market. Confidentiality agreement isn't upheld then. You know, it's not a blanket confidentiality agreement.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing all about that court case, because I think it's good to hear people standing up coming out of this. This is kind of, I'm going back to another comment, but I think it's important for you to see this. Stevie says, thank you for sharing your coming out story, Susan. This is why it's mind boggling when people say they aren't homophobic or racist or whatever it may be. We all internalize that indoctrination.
Oh, yeah. 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 That I know it's a tough time for a lot of people when they come out, you know, no matter what decade it is, but it was a difficult time for me. Back in the 70s to think about coming out, you know, it was not a popular time. They didn't have TV shows of gay people and stuff, you know. It was not a thing people talked about, but
the Clown Town.
oh,
Alan Gus says,
I
don't
love
be
that
sorry.
name. I love that name.
They're like, don't be sorry, it's okay. And everybody is saying in here too, here it is, Tanya says, Susan is the fucking goat. It's true. And Clown Town says, I was fucking pissed off, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
all right.
yeah, here's somebody who wants to be a paralegal, especially to advocate for people with children with special needs. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you go for it. Yeah. I think, we need more people. Yeah, it's funny because a lot of times when people come out of a cult, they want to be counselors, you know, which I think is great. But I think the bottom line is we need more people in the legal system to help, you know, in regards for people coming out of child abuse, you know, sexual abuse, those kinds of things. And so, yeah, I thought about going back to school to be a paralegal, and I'm still considering that in regards to helping people with oh, she said I represent myself pro se and everything. Oh, so sweet. Yeah. Well, you go, girl. You got cojones too. She's a badass.
High five,
Yeah,
Tanya.
yeah.
Do you have any advice for people that are coming out of a cult, multi-level marketing industry, about just healing, about being kind with themselves, knowing that they're, like you said, their journey is their journey? Do you have anything that you might want to share about that?
Well, I think the big thing is oh, she says me and Susan are pro.
Yeah, like
Yeah. Yeah, we are. I think the big thing about healing is most people can't do it on their own because we're in our internal thought process. And so we need to reach out and have somebody else process that with us. Doesn't have to be like a big time. And I know a lot of times when people have been in groups where, you know, you've had a coach or something like that that's been abusive, that sometimes it's hard to find somebody to that you can trust. Well, my first therapist, I loved her to death, and then I stopped seeing her for a while when I was so involved in my court case, because that ate up all my time. And then when I got my judgment back, I, you know, text her and I said, oh, you know, Amy, we won our case and stuff like that. And then I didn't hear from her. And then I was like, you know, and then I didn't hear back from her. And so then I thought, well, maybe she left that practice, and it was the practice's cell phone kind of thing. I think it was, you know, some organization kind of thing. And so then one night I woke up and I couldn't go back to sleep. You know, we all have those times, right? You know, because we're on our hamster wheel, you know, and we just can't sleep. So I got on the internet and I was like looking for her, and I knew her first and last name, and I was looking for her, and I came across this blog called Find or Missing Amy. And she, at Christmas time, which was shortly after our our decision came out, her whole family had gone to Florida. Make a long story short, she ended up dying in a diving accident, a scuba diving accident. Of course, I'm devastated. This person that I put my whole story and everything into had passed away. So then I had to find a new therapist. And then you have to go through your whole story all over again, kind of thing. So I'm on the internet looking for a therapist. And so I find this woman. She's a little bit older, but she has some experience with cults and trauma and stuff like that, PTSD. And so I go to meet her and I walk into her office and she's got tattoos all over the place and purple hair. And she's older than me. And I'm thinking like, I don't know about this, but maybe it'll be okay, you know? And so I started to tell her my story and she's perfect for me kind of thing, but usually people will give you a free consultation. You can usually tell within a time or two if they're good for you. But now you can do it on the internet and stuff like that. But a lot of times you can't get out of your own way if you're in your own thought process. And that's why I suggest like reaching out to somebody that that you can share your story with. And a lot of it is telling your story. You need somebody to listen to your story and help you through that, the grief and the shame and the trauma of that. And so I know that that's been a real important part of mine. And then, we talked about that, Julie, and when we met is that we have pieces of luggage that we kind of haul around, and the luggage has different components of our history of our trauma, and that a lot of people just shut that luggage up and they don't ever want to talk about it, but the luggage contains like dirty underwear and stuff like that. And then after a while, the underwear has to be like taken out of the luggage and washed and cleaned, or it gets stinky, It has the swimsuit from Miami that, after a while, the sand in the salty water gets like stinky, and it's better to like take it out, wash it, and like you can give it to the Goodwill, that kind of stuff. And so those are the metaphors that I use in regards to recovery. It's just like, it's like unpack it and get rid of it, Otherwise, after a while, 7 pieces of luggage gets a lot to haul around, that kind of thing. And so that's my suggestion around that. And so, it's just about finding somebody that you can trust, with your. And so we had talked about that, about setting, like I can set up groups, where we can do a Zoom group, of that, where people can just come on board and we can do a group, and people can work through their stuff in groups, that kind of thing. I can't take everybody on one-on-one. I'm just too busy in regards to doing that. And I'm not saying you have to work with me either. There are plenty of people out there doing good work. So
that's something that I might like do in the future, like wanting to do that. Like this is like creating content, putting it out there, letting like awareness. I don't like I don't monetize my content, and that's like one of the I support everybody who does, but for me it's my way of giving back, like my way of making it right. I have a lot of shit that I got to make up for, and it feels like this is the right thing for me to do. And I like the idea of I've helped like through private conversations on different social media platforms. I've helped work with people like to help them exit their different MLMs, coaching groups. I don't like to say I've done it. Like they did it on their own, but like be there for certain people. But I'm in over my head at times. Like I was doing this before I had even got therapy. So I'm still kind of fucked up, but I'm getting better.
Yeah. I don't charge either. So, I'm not saying I'm a rich person, that kind of thing, but I make enough money with the other things that I do that I don't have to charge. And so, but I can only slide so many people into my schedule, that kind of thing. So, I just do it because I that's a part of paying forward.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not looking for business though.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
but I do want to let people know my website is it's my name, susandones.com. And so feel free to check that out. I haven't had time to put um my podcast with Chris Shelton on there yet.
Oh, and I'll link that. I'll link that to here, and then I've got the your website in the description, and I'll just double check too. And if you happen to see and I like missed something, like definitely please let me know. But I'll put that link to that interview here because he's on YouTube. So yeah.
And then the podcast that I did with Roberta Glass, that's the one where I talked about Nancy Salzman being sexually inappropriate with me.
Okay.
The sexual harassment thing.
Okay.
That's her name and stuff. And then I've done a couple other podcasts on there, and then I have a blog on there. And if anybody ever wants to write a blog, I set my website up for survivors of trauma, and so it's designed for that. So if anybody ever wanted to write a blog, if anybody ever wants to do a podcast, I'm willing to do podcasts with people too. So if anybody wants to write a blog, it's set up so other people can write blogs on there. Like if you don't want to create your own blog, like you just want to do a story, you can do that. And you can do that under a pseudonym name, so it's not your name kind of thing. But if you just want to get your story out there, you can do that too. So
right on. Is there anything else that you'd like to say or share or anything?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'll sell autographs for $100.
What about foot pics?
Yeah. What is a foot pic?
I don't know. I hear they're popular.
Yeah. I don't even know what that is. No, the whole.
It's an actual picture of your foot. Like people really enjoy pictures of feet. So
yeah, you wouldn't want to.
And it is work. Like I'm not by any means making fun of people that do that, but it's kind of like one of those jokes. It's like, well, I might as well sell foot pics, but probably the people that actually do it have really nice looking feet.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, you wouldn't want a picture of my feet. Yeah, let me tell you, I'd have to go get a pedicure first. But yeah, no, I have Flintstone feet. My feet are short and stubby, so unless you're into that thing, then maybe I could consider that. But I think the celebrity thing just kind of blows me away. So I don't. I don't. It's funny when people say that. I'd be like, really? Yeah. But I don't know. It's funny.
You have inspired so many people. Even like from 2009 when you left, 2010, just sharing your story, what I just briefly caught on the Vow, and then I would listen to other podcasts. Like you really helped me. I didn't know you, but just hearing that you had stood up, and then just those little similarities, it sometimes that's all a person needs. I just needed to hear that, one thing, and I'm like, I'm good. It's like it makes you stronger or something. So like your behavior has helped so many of us, and this is going to help a lot of people too. So thank you so much.
I just want you to know that you have inspired me too. Like your energy and what you post on Instagram and stuff. It's like I've liked a lot of your stuff, and I'll be like, I like this woman. I have to reach out to her. And so I just want you to know that I feel the same way about what you've done, and it's so funny because for a long time I was only on Twitter, and then my Facebook page was completely private. It was just for family and friends and stuff. And then I thought, maybe I should get on Instagram. And I mean, I like it because there's little videos and vignettes and stuff like that. And so, I think the first one I saw was about your kick-ass coffee, and I'm like, oh, I want to get some of that. That's my kind of coffee. And then I just started watching more of your Instagram stuff, and I'm just like, God, I hope she doesn't think I'm stalking her if I reach out and say, hey, would you ever want to do a podcast with me? Because I'm just starting to want to do podcasts. I mean, I've done enough of my people have said, hey, would you do a podcast with me?
Yeah.
I've done a lot of those kind of podcasts, but now
Right.
I want to start doing podcasts with other people, like where people have interviewed me, and now I'm like, I want to start doing podcasts with other people. And then you said, hey, yeah, would you like to do a live stream with me? And I'm like, well, I don't know, I've never done one, but yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like, I don't want to edit. Like, it's like live is
Yeah.
so much more fun. I thought, well, I'm gonna take a chance and ask.
Yeah. But yeah. And then I'm like, well, maybe we should meet first and like get to know each other before we do do a live stream, so that at least we know a little bit of each other's background and stuff.
Yeah, because I was just like, okay, let's go. And then then when you said, oh, it would be a good idea to meet, I'm like, of course, that makes sense. But I'm still in that. It's just I'm like so used to like this is what you do, and then you just have to go out and go do this video, and it's just funny. There's those reality checks that come in. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense.
What's a high altitude potato
So,
team?
so Stevie says, Susan, if you like Julie, you should join her high altitude potato team. So I make jokes and spoofs and parodies on multi-level marketing companies. And I did a whole spoof on high altitude potatoes. So then I'll like bring out a potato every once in a while and I'll just like talk about high altitude potatoes. So then that's what it's about. It's just,
oh yeah, that sounds like fun. Yeah.
Johnny says, you're doing great, Susan, and you too, Julie.
Okay.
It says, this has been so eye-opening and heartbreaking at the same time.
Yeah. It's really hard subjects to talk about. But it's, the thing is, it's reality. Yeah. Stuff we go through. But, like Kelly Clarkson said, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
There you go. Dave says, this had been truly awesome. The interview, the chat, all the things, non-culty group hug. Yeah.
Thanks, Dave. Can always use a hug.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you guys have been wonderful. Gosh, we've talked for almost 3 hours. I didn't think we would. Oh my God.
Time flies when you're having fun. This is like live stream on YouTube. This is it. This is where it's at.
Yeah. My gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I hope everybody had a good time.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, everyone, for being on here and for your comments and your questions. I know I didn't see some of them, especially at the beginning, and but I hope that I hope that the ones that I asked and that Susan was gracious enough to answer was helpful to you. And
yeah. Is there any last minute questions that somebody had a burning desire that slipped by as we were like mindlessly chatting? Well, not mindlessly, but we were chatting and your question just zipped by in the comments.
Yeah, please, if anybody has a question,
speak now or hold your peace till we get together again.
That's right. Yeah, if you ever want to do this again, it's an open invitation whenever you want. And if not, no big deal.
Yeah. We'll have to come up with a different topic. Not my life story, because it's been told so many times.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could do something else. We'd come up with another topic, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Charlie Hobo says, thanks to both of you. Great insight. Stevie says, why are you both so awesome is my only other question.
Well, it's just born that way, I guess.
And Helen says, fabulous live stream. Thanks so much. Johnny says, please do it again. You guys are great. Tatiana says, thank you. This was fantastic. Dave says, only 3 hours. We could go another 3.
Yeah. Well, we'd have to take a little intermission because I haven't had dinner yet. So
okay, yeah, that's important. Water and bathroom is important.
Yeah. We'd have to have some kind of intermission entertainment going on.
I do that sometimes when I go to the bathroom. I'll play music and then I'll go to the bathroom and I come back. Yeah.
Well, it's been great. I mean, we could also try this sometime on a Zoom call and then have people. We could have people, because I have professional Zoom. Ooh, okay. Wow, professional Zoom. Yeah. And then people could be on, and then we could have them pop in and say, hey, because I bet you guys are all really wonderful too. That's my bet. And then we could not, if somebody gets on in there, we could send out invitations and we could invite certain people because we wouldn't want any we wouldn't want any active NXIVM member in there.
No, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah. There's Stevie says, "OMG, I would 1000% join a Zoom."
Yeah,
You
it'd
got
be
people
fun.
here just right there. Johnny's like professional Zoom. Yes. Tanya says, "I'd do a Zoom." There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe we could just invite this group, the people that came on today,
there you go. Yeah.
and then, yeah, we can invite this group on, and then we could privately invite other people that we know that might wanna come on, and
Yep.
then what we could do is, instead of them, um typing in their questions, we could just, unmute them, and then they could just, ask their questions, and if they have other feedback that they wanna do, they could do that too.
This is so cool. This is Dave says, "Any bloody topic you do will be there. Cults, potatoes, anything."
Okay.
Tatiana says, "I have been to a support group like that. It was very helpful." Stevie says, "Zoom has a potato filter." It's turning into potatoes. It's like
Well, hey, yeah, I love potatoes, especially the baked ones that have kind of a hard crust on them. I
Oh,
had one for dinner last night. Oh my god, it was like heaven,
oh
you
yeah. Oh,
know?
Johnny's got the here. It's then we can invite 3 more. Who can invite 3 more?
Oh, no, no network marketing scheme.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, but, we have to limit it to a certain amount, otherwise everybody's pictures is about this big, and you're
Yeah.
going, "Oh, who
Yeah.
is that?"
Well, that's yeah, that sounds good to me. I know people would be open to this, so that's
Yeah.
open invitation for that.
Yeah, that would be fun, oh, there's new comments. I have to
I love potatoes too. High altitude potato. Oh, here Erica Lewis says hello.
Oh,
Monica
hi.
Monica says I'll catch the replay.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Erica, Monica, you can ask any question that you want. We were just Susan was saying I'll answer questions like we're hanging out and
I know this sounds this might I'm gonna show how ignorant I am because I don't know what a goat is other than the furry ones that are so fun to play with.
I'm gonna show you.
Okay.
Because you can just goat meaning because I had to too because it was like not many people can claim to be the goat, but those who can are the greatest of all time in their field. You are the greatest of all time.
So, do you want me to do a group badass reading?
Yes, please. Yes, this would be great. Okay, cool.
All right.
We've been answering too in the chat here. They're like greatest of all time, greatest of all time, greatest of all time.
Okay. So for those that don't know, I have badass cards. So advice for a badass, this is a deck with a little less woo-woo than most. A lot more, yes, bitch, you got this. So I'm just going to pull a card for the whole group. And Julie, you get to tell me when to stop.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Okay, I'm channeling all the vibes from this chat. All right.
I forget this. It goes backwards.
Okay. Stop.
Okay. Okay. So this says, be kind and full of love, but have boundaries like a motherfucker. So that's everybody's badass card for today, for the next 24 hours. And then, where is the, what? Oh, and then your affirmation card is expect many F-bombs. Most traditional affirmations are make your eyes roll back to the back of your head and to a hard right. These cards are more like when you need a good old-fashioned kick in the ass.
That's perfect.
Okay. So just to, oh.
Okay. Stop.
Okay. The house is not on fire. No one is bleeding. Everyone has eaten. You're fucking whining today.
Okay, that landed. Oh my god. Oh man. Everybody's loving this. Monica does have a question. At what age did you join NXIVM?
Oh my God. Oh, let me subtract. Let me grab my phone.
Okay.
So, oh my gosh, this is going to take some math. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Oh.
Dave says merch. Anyone? Jessica, thank you. Jessica says I'm about to go to sleep. Thanks, Julie and Susan. Jessica, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for commenting and being on.
Oops.
We had a group reading.
I was 43 when I joined. Is that right? It's 43. Yeah, 43.
Shit. Wow. I was 42 when I got into multi-level marketing. Yeah.
All right. So we will take a look at what date works for us in the future.
Okay. Sounds good.
You're going to take some time off, right, though, for yourself.
Yeah.
So we'll take a look at when you get back from your pilgrimage.
Yes. I'm going on and I'm going absent. I got to get off and then do some healing.
Yeah.
A lot of shit going on. Everybody does. Oh, you had said that one more thing too, about like everybody has that, like everybody has the Vietnam or something.
Oh yeah, yeah. When I was in my undergrad program, this woman, I was studying bereavement, and this woman, I was reading a book on bereavement, and this woman, her mother had terminal cancer, and she was talking to her mom about her terminal cancer, and she said, "I just don't know how you even deal with this." And her mom said, "Everybody has their own Vietnam." Of course, now I'm aging myself, and she said. And so that struck me, it's like we all have, we all go through our own trauma in regards to that. And so a lot of times when people say, gosh, I can't even imagine what you went through, I always revert back to that book that I read. And it's true that, we all have, if you want to update that, you could go like, well, we all have our own Afghanistan, or something. I mean, we all have our own trauma that we go through. And so like when people try to say, oh my gosh, you had it so bad, it's like I never try to compare what I went through in NXIVM with what other people have been through, because we don't know, what their trauma experience was, that kind of thing. And so we all have different skill sets of how, what we went through and how we deal with it, that kind of thing. And so like, it kind of reminds me of that the movie Jaws. If you saw the movie Jaws, and they're down below deck and they're all comparing their battle wounds, I got this knife fight, and I got the scar from this knife fight, and I got a barracuda that bit me here, that kind of thing. It's like, we should never compare our trauma with somebody else in regards to that, because I don't know what your trauma was like. I can only relate it to like what I went through and stuff. And so, my trauma was my trauma, your trauma is yours, Julie, and everybody else's trauma is theirs. And so the bottom line is we all experience that, and my healing's mine, yours is yours, and everybody else is theirs. And so, and we take as long to get through it as we get through it, that kind of thing. Everybody deserves to have their story heard. How they tell it and who they tell it to is their own business.
Thank you so much. Sarah Jane says, that is so compassionate and wise. And Erica says, I was raised in a religious cult. There are so many parallels between what Julie reveals about rank makers and what I grew up with.
Mm-hmm.
And Tanya says, I totally get the Vietnam comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And Helen says, Susan, you are so insightful and empathetic. Stevie had asked, how do we get a Zoom invite? So it will be everybody that's on here. that is interested, we can, I don't know, maybe I would give my email and they could send me an email and then I could send them the link or something. We could figure it out. But it'll be in the live chat because it's only on the live chat will these particular comments show up. Comments after this aired, it's like, sorry, you should have been on live. Excuse you lose.
Yeah. And so it'll probably be towards the end of April, right? Because you're going to take a sabbatical.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, it'll be sometime towards the end of April, first part of May that we do that. So yeah. And if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me through my website. And
Okay.
it's just susandones.com, and there's a place in there where you can go in and ask a question, and that will signal me that you've asked a question, and then I can respond to you through that.
Okay. I guess maybe because you could be inundated right now. We could
I'll get to you when I can get to you.
Okay.
I'm going to be busy the next couple of days because I got a big DJ gig coming up, and I'm still working on the music for that. So it's a big corporate gig. So
oh, cool.
yeah. So yeah. Well, yeah, they're fun. I love doing DJ music. It's fun because people are happy that, you know, I do mostly weddings, but I do a few corporate gigs because now COVID's kind of really over. So now the corporations are trying to get their parties in and stuff. But you know, it's completely different than doing cult work because, you know, I love music for one. And then like the corporate gig I'm doing, they said, oh, we got a couple of people from Japan and a couple of people from India. Can you supply some music? And I'm like, yeah, okay. But now I have to research that because like, I don't know Japanese dinner music and Japanese dance music. So like now I'm on the internet, good Japanese dance music, you know, and like, I'm not having to look it up and I can't really listen to it you know, I know it's not illicit music because that's all marked kind of thing, but I'm having to research that, which is fun in its own right, but it's time consuming.
Yes.
You know? And I have a friend who's from India, so I just reached out to him and said, hey, you know, but I don't know anybody from Japan. So
there's an app, it's called Chat GPT. So I don't know what your feelings about downloading an app, but oh my God, it's free. It's not pay to play. There is a paid option, but I've just I'll show you what it looks like. This thing is incredible because I use it to create this title, Unpacking the Multi-Level Marketing Scheme Used by NXIVM. I just typed in, you can type in any question, and I've used it to type in like, what would be a good YouTube description for like being in a high control multi-level marketing coaching group. I just put all this stuff in and then it writes it out. And then if you don't like it, you can kind of tweak it. But I could actually search for it right now for you. What are some top freaking Japanese dinner music?
Well, I just went to Spotify and they came up with a list. And
okay, well then
and then Google came up with Billboard Top 100 Japanese songs kind of thing. And so I just listened to like what is, you know, what is like kind of a, you know, I'm not necessarily a bad dancer, but you know, and then just go into my DJ. We can't play like I can't play Spotify at a paid gig. It's, you know, if I got caught, it's like a $25,000 fine. So, but I have DJ services I subscribe to. And then if I can't find it on there, then I have to buy it, which is not a big deal. It's like $1.30 per song.
Oh, so. It's just so cool that, it's from like global, you're doing these gigs. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Johnny says, Julie, you better take that vacation. Don't just talk about do it. Stevie says, Q, do they call you DJ Dones?
No, I go by Deez, Deez.
No, that's so cool. It's like D's nuts. That's another joke. Like it's like D's nuts. That's so fantastic. D's, that's so cool.
Yeah. So DJ D's.
DJ D's.
Yeah. So that's actually part of my email. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. Right. Yeah, because DJ Susan's really kind of like a flame. Yeah.
Okay. Making D's nuts. We got D's nuts and truck nuts joke. Do you know what truck nuts are? We're skittering off. Now it's just having fun.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't know what these nuts are.
Okay, so D's nuts, it's like this joke. You could just say anything about D's and then be like, D's nuts. It's kind of stupid.
Like these nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Truck nuts are this is really weird. Some places have it. I live in southern Alberta. People have a pickup truck and they'll have like a ball hitch, like as if they're gonna like put a trailer.
Yeah.
They'll hang like these balls. It's like metal balls, and some of them are really big. It's so stupid. It's like this accoutrement for their truck.
Yeah, like what is that about? Like,
I know what it's about. It's compensating for something.
Right. That's what I thought. Like, geez, are you hidden up inside or what? Like, dude, really? You don't see women driving around like that with big ovaries hanging off their heads, It's like
it's true.
I thought maybe we should start marketing stuff like that. We can make it into an MLM,
Exactly. High altitude potatoes and truck nuts.
No, truck ovaries,
Truck ovaries.
Like a real woman would have ovaries hanging from her ball hitch. It's just like, oh my God, it's just like, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry for all the guys that are on here. Steve, I'm so sorry about talking about nuts and ovaries.
People are okay with that. We talk about a lot of different things here. It's pretty much
like,
wide open.
oh my God, it's like, it's when I was in the Navy, we'd have to do shit like that. Women would have to do shit like that, because we were so bombarded by, gross sayings and be like, so we'd have to figure out comebacks, like, are you talking about the mouse in your pocket? It's just like, oh my God, it'd be like, like you'd be at the club sometimes because the drinking age was younger at the club than it was on off base, and like some guy would come up. Would you like to dance? No, thank you. I just had a hysterectomy. It'd be like, it's just like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, I get the balls hanging off your hitch, but it's just like, really?
Yeah. It's always like, yeah. I like to make fun. I use it as part of my repertoire is the truck nuts. Monica asks, you were in the Navy?
She says, yeah. I went in right after high school. So college education, waiting to happen. So
Charlie says this channel is therapeutic. And Johnny is saying you need to patent truck ovaries.
Yeah.
And this is it. The bigger the truck nuts, the smaller the personality.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely. In smaller the brain.
Yeah. Smaller the brain.
Like that, and I never got the bumpers, the sticker where the little kid is like peeing, he's peeing out, like he's peeing on something.
Yes.
It's like, okay, whatever,
Yeah.
Like, I pee on you. It's like, like, okay, whatever.
Oh, we have a couple more questions here. Monica says, for how long? I'm active duty AG1. She corrected it to AG1.
Yeah, I was in 10 years. I was a hydraulic and pneumatic specialist, but I did a lateral conversion. After 4 years, I did a lateral conversion into becoming an alcohol treatment specialist. And I stayed in that till they said, you either need to go back to being a hydraulics specialist or you need to get out. And so I said, Papa, I'm going to get out and go to finish college. So yeah, they actually let me stay in a little bit longer. Doing that, I was supposed to go back, and then they gave me another 3-year tour doing alcohol rehab. And so I stayed in 3 more years and came back to the States. I was overseas. And so I did that, and that was a lot of fun, a lot of good education stuff. And then I got out and finished up my undergrad and went to grad school. And then I joined a cult.
It's the next natural thing.
Yeah, it's just a natural line of progression, you know?
That's right.
No, actually, I went into private practice and was in there before I joined it.
Erica Lewis says, sorry if this is a repeat question. Were you in the NXIVM inner circle?
No, gosh, no. I was multitudes of rings down. That's kind of, and I explained that on the Chris Shelton podcast. It was like, I was kind of like in the, it was kind of like high school. I wasn't in with the popular kids, but I wasn't one of the, I was kind of in the middle kind of thing. And I used to get feedback about, like, why do I hang out here, kind of thing. And that's just kind of where I feel comfortable. I guess that's why I don't like being called a celebrity kind of thing. It's like, these are my people, kind of thing. And it's like, I think I was too defiant to be in the inner circle. It's like I asked too many of the right kind of questions. Like, why do you teach this and do this? It's like, is Keith sleeping with these, people? Like, why is he sleeping with these women? Well, we don't talk about that, that kind of thing. I think in order to be in the inner circle, you had to, one, worship him, and two, you had to, like right away they started saying, don't pay your taxes, and I think that was a way to get collateral over you. And I'd be like, well, I'm going to pay my taxes. Well, why are you paying taxes? Taxes are unethical. And I'd be like, well, because I don't want to go to prison. I'd be the person caught not paying my taxes, and I'd get hammered by the IRS, and then, they would throw me in prison to make an example out of me, kind of thing. And so, I just wasn't going to participate in certain things. But I think that that's the way cults work, is they want to try to get certain kind of collateral over you. And so one of the ways they got collateral over me was to get me so far in debt, that I was willing, I was trying to do everything to get my debt paid off, kind of thing. But being on the West Coast is what really saved my ass, because they could only dunk me in the Kool-Aid when they could get me out to Albany.
Right. Monica says, AG means aerographer's mate. We tell the weather. That's what she does.
Great. Yeah.
And Tanya says, we'll be your people, Susan.
Great. Good. I like having people that I can be with, I don't like, I've never liked being that, I've never liked the position of this, like I'm here and people are here. I like this.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by my people, this kind of thing. And so I've never liked that. And so when people say, oh my God, I can't believe you're talking to me, it always makes me feel uncomfortable, kind of thing, because I've never been that kind of person. It's not like, I don't like attention, because I like attending with, kind of thing. I don't like that. I don't like that pedestal attention.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
It's a slippery slope too, like coming out of a cult. I know within the multi-level marketing industry, there's that whole edification piece too. And there's so we anybody that is perceived to be like above you, or like a coach or something, you're supposed to think that they're so busy all the time. And we're coached to be like, if somebody says no, or they're hesitating, like we've sent them a message, would you be open to taking a look at this short video? If not, no big deal. We'd be like, well, I'm really busy right now. I have to go on. I'll hop on with somebody else that has actually watched the video. Like, you fucking loser. It's like we're such an asshole to them. And then, but we really believe we have to act like we're so busy. So then when we get out, or if we're even talking to other people, because I get that from people, they'll be like, oh, I know you're so busy. Oh, I can't believe you responded to my message. I'm like, no, that's just the bullshit cult rhetoric. Nobody's that fucking busy. I mean, I don't respond to all messages either, but I don't get fucking as many as you do. I get a shit ton on TikTok, but I just don't. But when I do, it's not because I'm like, oh, I'm so busy, I've come down to it's like we're just human. We're like you said, we're together. There's not one better, not like, oh, so grateful that I'm responding to you. That's what we were like in the multi-level marketing industry. It's so
Yeah. 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 It's to me, it's kind of her hero worshiping kind of stuff,
yeah.
kind of thing. And so like, I mean, this, like if I work with somebody and they're thankful
Mhm.
because I worked with them, that's one thing. But like, I don't, it makes me feel uncomfortable because I never want to be in that position where somebody feels like, they're below me
Yeah.
kind of thing,
Yeah.
and I think that's one of the reasons that when everybody was swarming around Keith, that made me uncomfortable because he really fed off the hero worship kind of thing. And
Yes.
then, then his inner circle were like, "But he's Keith," and it's kinda like, "Oh my god, that's so creepy to me," kind of thing,
Yes.
and it's just kinda like, I don't wanna feed into that kind of mentality, and I don't want people to think that I think that about myself, because I'm just the D's,
That's so good.
you know?
D.
I'm just a I'm just a budget-friendly DJ, kind of thing.
So fantastic. I bet your shows are so much fun.
Well, weddings are about the bride, they're not about me at all, you
Yeah.
know? So it's
But
like
that's why I bet you they're so good because of that, that kind of energy. It comes through when you do shit
yeah.
like
Oh, like, I have a couple of buffet jokes, that kind of thing, when you send people to the buffet and, other than that, it's really just about the bride, really. I mean, the groom is, important too, but really weddings are, most grooms could care less, it's like, "Well, let's elope," kind of thing. But, it's not weddings are not about the DJ. The weddings are really about, it's the day for the bride and the groom, kind of thing. And so
I
my job is to announce, "Oh, it's time to cut the cake," and, it's, "Oh, now we're gonna do the bridegroom dance," and to make sure that their songs are downloaded and ready to go kind of thing, to announce people to, "Oh, now the cocktail hour is over and people need to take their seats because the bride and groom are gonna enter the reception," and to be professional about that, that kind of stuff. My job is not to like, I'm the D's and, like, gotta spin some records.
right. Oh, okay. Dave says don't pay taxes. Well, that didn't age well for them.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Some of them went to prison over that shit.
um, and Monica says narcissists feed off that. They love it. They love that
Mhm,
power. And if they have no use for you, they get rid of you.
mhm, yeah.
Stevie asks if can we hear one of your buffet jokes?
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, well, um, alright, so you have to pretend like you're all at the wedding, and I say, "Well, it's about time that we start the buffet, and it's traditional for the bride and groom to go through first, the wedding party to go through second, and the DJ always goes through third," which is not true, but, so you have to really kinda be there, but
There are gonna be people in the comments. This will be great. There's gonna be a delay now.
yeah.
Oh, fuck. There we go. Here we go, Stevie. There we go. Here we go. Stevie. Fuck, I'm like, it's true. I just got out of a cult a year ago. Give me a break, Stevie. Fuck.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, usually a DJ releases the
Sorry,
table.
Susan.
Yeah,
Everybody, I'm a little bit slower on the tape.
yeah. Usually a DJ releases the table, and then the DJs go through third. I mean, the DJ goes through after that, so
Oh, shit. Yeah, so Stevie's with you here.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, if you haven't been to a lot of weddings, then you probably wouldn't get that. But yeah, usually people will crack up because, the wedding party, and then there would be nobody to release the tables.
Right. Here, Stevie is says, I have so many gullible friends who would be like, I don't think I can go yet. The DJ hasn't eaten.
So usually what I do is I'll go around and release the tables, and then I'll go through and then I say, "No, I'm just kidding." I say, yeah, and then what I'll do is I'll come around and release the table orders, and then I'll make my way through the buffet table. But my busiest time of the whole wedding is after dinner, because we have bridegroom dance, cake cutting, garter toss, bouquet toss, specialty dances, and then we move into dancing. And when dancing starts, I have, their list that they gave me, and then people are coming up and requesting songs, and then so like I have to try to get dinner in before all of that stuff starts taking place, kind of thing.
Oh, wow. It's like you're almost like emceeing this as well.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I didn't realize it was so involved.
Yeah. Well, you have the before music, and then you have ceremony music, and then you usually have cocktail hour, and then you introduce the bride and groom when they come in, and then sometimes they want their wedding party introduced, and then you have dinner, and then you have then from dinner you move into toasts, and then you move into all these other events and stuff. So, and then you have to find out what songs they want for all of that stuff, and you download all of that. And then I meet with them, usually through Zoom. I meet with them a couple of weeks before their wedding. I get their music requests back. I have a sheet for them, a worksheet for them to do. And then I meet with them a couple of weeks before, just make sure we're on the same page, that kind of thing. And then I put their music together, and then show up and set up, and depends on if they want lights or not, and that kind of stuff, and do their wedding. Then I break down and go home, and I'm done.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah.
Nothing to recover from, hopefully, unless I have a bridezilla or a momzilla.
Right. D's versus the bridezilla. I have a feeling D's wins every time.
No. I try to be very diplomatic. Usually I know from the first couple of conversations we have or emails that have passed back and forth, I know it's a momzilla or a bridezilla, but that doesn't happen too often.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Tanya says you sound like a blast to party with. And Monica asks, what was one of your memorable weddings that you DJ'd?
Good or bad?
Oh yeah. Let's go good.
Good. Oh gosh, there's so many of them. Most couples are really very sweet, and it's their special day, that kind of thing. So most of them are really memorable.
If you want. It's your choice.
Yeah, no, most of them are really, they're just happy, and their families are really happy, and they have really good. Most of them have really good. I encourage them to do a blend of music, because the group of people that show up are different ages, and they can listen to their favorite kind of music anytime they want to listen to it. And so, but if they're going to invite different age groups, I try to suggest that they blend the music so that everybody gets to listen to some of their music and not just pick their favorite kind of music and stuff. And if they need help with that, then I can help with that, because I'm older, and, I know multi-generations of music and stuff. And then I give them places where they can find that kind of stuff. And then, and so I don't know if I have a most memorable favorite one, because they're all usually pretty good, but the most memorable, horrible experiences and the groom and bride let me know this before when we first met, is that the groom's mother did not want him to marry his bride.
Oh boy.
And she was horrible. I mean, she was just really, really bad. And she showed up late, and she showed up drunk, and she was just a bitch.
Oh no.
And so finally I just pulled her aside, and it really wasn't my job, but I just pulled her aside, and I said, you are making this wedding horrible. Mm-hmm. And I said, you really need to stop, or you should leave. Mm-hmm. I said, this is your son's wedding, and hopefully it'll be his only wedding, but you should leave. And if you continue to act this way, I'm going to call the hotel staff, or I'm going to call the cops. And her eyes got about this big, and she said, you would do that? And I said, yeah. but you need to knock this off. And so she stopped, and I said, your son can write me a bad review or whatever, but I don't care. I said, I have a really good reputation, and he's already paid me. So the thing is that you're just being horrible. And you don't need to be here if you don't agree with this, or you can settle down and stop it. And so he came up later and he said, what did you say to my mom? And I said, so I told him. He said, thank you. He said, nobody in my family would call her out like that. I said, well, somebody had to.
Yeah.
And she was being horrid. So that was, I think, the worst experience I had. I mean, I've had a couple more like that, but I mean, who does that to their kid? Like, just won't even come.
Yeah. That's rough. Yeah. People are like, Monica's like badass. That's so awesome. Monica says, yes, you stopped to Karen.
Yeah. It's just like, God, who does that to their kid? It's just like, she shouldn't even come.
Yeah. It's amazing that you just stopped it like that, being so calm. I guess that's a good lesson here.
Yeah.
Dave, Maori weddings are a tad different. Uncle's 1970s reggae music mixtape. Aunties yell, don't touch the bloody fried bread. Family wasted.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah.
All right. And Dave says, are you sure that wasn't a Maori wedding?
No, there wasn't that good of music. in the whole the groom and the whole groom's party were in kilts, so it wasn't definitely not a Maori wedding. Yeah, but I know it's getting late for some people, so we should, we've gone way off. So now everybody knows pretty much what I do. Yeah. Unless you want to go into raised bed gardening, but I think we should probably call it a night.
We can do that next time, or whatever we do to hook up, collab again.
But then we can really talk about potatoes.
Yeah, I'll make sure I have some potatoes on hand. Potato props.
But again, thanks again for everybody being here. Yeah, it's been enjoyable. But it'd be nice to have a Zoom thing, because then we can pull other people up to talk about their experience and stuff. So it just won't be the Susan show and the Susan and Julie show, but mostly the Susan show. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for commenting, for hanging out with us, asking questions, and thank you just on behalf of everyone here and the people that are going to come across this video in the years to come. Thank you so much, Susan.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.